his ult and then start running back, and then suddenly you can now disengage a lot faster as well. So he's just using this Janna really well, both to be offensive and defensive, and that's why he wants that defensive item to save him in case he gets caught out in the front.
And you know, 15 stacks on his Soul Stealer
that helps as well, Joe.
Helping out overall. So, G Tigers now moving towards the bottom lane. Can they finish off this tower? Freddy is the sole man to defend for now. Rest of the team coming in just behind him. But honestly, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to hold this. We've got Rek'Sai pushing that top lane out as well. Of course, the Baron buff helping with this push as well.
Yeah, the wave clear is only really on Diana and Forgiven was so late to the party. 75% of the tower's HP's been chipped away, and that's going to give Lee uncontested time in the top lane. One way or the other, GE Tigers are getting set to take another tower down.
And this is why we normally see teams ban Rek'Sai against GE Tigers. They use the split push so well. There's no teleport for either of the top laners at the moment, and that's why they just put Lee to do basic work on his own here. Tower going down in the bottom lane. We normally don't see SK Gaming being behind and being the ones who has to run around, defend their own towers. They're normally the ones making the plays. But as we mentioned on the expert disc beforehand, when SK Gaming is losing, it's when they don't get that lead early on and they won't get to really pressure all the lanes at once.
And in this type of matchup, SK is not traditionally behind. They've only lost 3 games in the European LCS, and now they need to figure out how to bounce back from a deficit against the strongest team from Korea that's undefeated in a series. So
in the world, maybe?
In the world. They're putting up a hell of a case for it, that's for sure.
Well, SK are trying to beat them back from that last remaining inner turret that stands in the middle lane. I feel that's maybe just a matter of time at this point, though, before they're back in position defending. That one looks like GE Tigers want to just recall, spend some of the gold that they've been collecting, and then come back even stronger from this one. A lot of wards actually picked up on that last trip.
A lot of wards being placed as well from the GE Tigers in the jungle of SK Gaming. Ping wards in there. Now obviously you've reset the whole map because GE Tigers got the towers they wanted. Dragon is spawning in about a minute time, so you're going to reposition all these pings. So you see how 4 new has already been picked up by them, and because they're running double sidestone with the Rek'Sai, and one of the reasons I really feel like Rek'Sai offers so much more to your team than in Italy is you build sidestone. You can build obviously a Locket as well. You won't do that on Italy. It's all about the AP damage, and that means for SK Gaming, very delayed Locket, if they even are going to get one, against a lot of magic damage from the side of GE Tigers, is really going to hurt them even more in these 5-on-5 fights.
Yeah, N-Rated is just so far behind. Working with hit points only. Going to be relying on some of the armor and MR from Molten Shield, but that's it. There's nothing else for him in the map. 0-6-5, not been aggressive enough, and this is what we said about N-Rated.
It's such a different N-Rated when he's not playing on a disengaged support. I'm not sure why he doesn't want to try and pick up the likes of a Morgana. Great against a Maokai here to stop the engage, protect your Caitlyn maybe. He's not decisive enough on Annie to really make it work for him. He's not used to being the main engage on SK Gaming, and we have seen it a few times in this game here where he had openings, but he didn't take them.
It's gonna have to change if SK want anything out of this game. We see the Tigers moving now towards another Dragon. Lee actually kept out of that area, so no smite for them, but that's not really gonna matter here. They will be able to pick that one up. And that means the GE Tigers with 1.5 minutes until Baron can start pushing these lanes out again.
Yeah, just great play from the GE Tigers. Held even, only picked the fights when they were ahead. And a lot of GE Tigers' decision-making has been led from Smeb. His teleport engages, Righteous Glory is the front line for the team, and the team is working around the Maokai so effectively. Look at the damage onto Forgiven. Trying to set it up, and Rated flashed for that one. But you do hear Lee jumping in for the fight, so Rated not able to get in, not able to stun the targets, and SK lost one of their primary, arguably their biggest form of engage.
They need it so much because they have to be able to dive the back line of GE Tigers. Main problem obviously is also, one of the problems is this QSS we mentioned earlier for Gorilla. It's gonna make sure he can pop it and then use Monsoon after to disengage. Now Freddy, he's in trouble.
Oh, is he gonna change over in time? Does manage to get back there onto the steps of the base, but there we see Smeb diving right into the back. They kill off 1, 2, and 3 will surely be falling here. Fox is extremely low. Freddy is gonna be falling soon as well. Fox will, not quite get finished off. The Zonya's just blocking out that last one, but Kuro is there at the back just to mop things things up, and that is 3 men down for SK Gaming. They're going to lose an inhib here.
GE Tigers make that team fight look easy, demolishing SK's base. They're on the bottom lane inhibitor. Freddy taking so much damage from that engage from Smeb. No front line for SK, and the strongest, most fed member from the team unable to make an impact. GE Tigers, they're onto the second inhibitor.
Yeah, they could possibly finish things off here, although Svenskern's going to be coming back up in a second. They'll catch out Forgiven. Smeb diving in for that one again. Freddy here will again be transforming, but will that get him away from things? Actually looks like it will have now that Enrated comes out.
But the damage is done.
This Marco pick was just so perfect for them. Knowing that, okay, there's a high chance Enrated's going to go for Annie, so they saw that being locked in. There's no peel from SK Gaming side, or at least they expected there not to be any peel. And then against the Caitlyn, you won't be able to net away as soon as the Maokai clicks on you with the W. He's going to follow you, like we just saw here. So it just allows Smeb to always look for Forgiven, single him out, and then suddenly he's nullified in these fights here. And SK Gaming simply doesn't have the tools whenever there's no flash on the Annie to try and get onto Prey or Koro on this Victor here now. Teleport coming in.
Oh, SK is in so much trouble. They're a little bit surrounded. Smeb's actually gone too early on this one. I take that back. 1v4. Smeb is going to get shut down. We did hear the Void Rush from Lee, but it doesn't look like SK can find him out. It is a solitary win, because it has not and will not equate into a whole lot here for SK Gaming, because they have waves of super minions to deal with. And GE Tigers, one small mistake, we'll let it slide, because Smeb has done such a phenomenal job up until this point, finding the targets and finding the engages that have prevented SK any chance.
He was just testing how tanky he really was. Can I 1v4?
Oh, Prey going deep on this one here, but they might be able to come up with the results. There is Enrated throwing down Tibbers off the side, and they've finished off Prey there. Can they get any more from this one? Kuro will say no, and SK Gaming get that one single kill, and we'll back off.
Dare I say a tad overconfident in that setup.
Yeah.
GE Tigers losing a little bit of focus when you're this far ahead. Again, these are small victories for SK, but it hasn't equated into objectives. It hasn't bought a whole lot other than time, but I'm still not hopeful.
Basically what it buys for SK is your inhibitors are going to respawn and you didn't lose a Baron while they were down, which we normally would see. You have 2 waves of super minions coming into your base, you have no teleport ready. I mean, you would have to give up that Baron, but because they got these picks, they have delayed it. Inhibitors should respawn fairly soon for SK, and we might see like an all-in-all or an all-in 5-on-5 team fight, or Svenskern being caught out and one-shotted.
Yeah.
How do you play by play that?
9-2-4 Victor is going to do that to you.
That's the reason people like Victor. He has a lot of damage.
Well, it's got a lot of utility as well. Freddy get caught in that gravity field and pulled backwards. GE Tigers, knowing Smite's not available and having their entire team spawned and having super minions in SK's base, means this should be uncontested. SK completely peeled away. Baron number 2 going to the GE Tigers at 34 minutes. And they should be knocking on the top lane door. There's the pings. GE set their sights on the last remaining inhib.
And why not? Far and away ahead in this, 22-10 in kills, 8-3 in turrets, the Barons all in, and the Dragons even in their favor. It's just a case now of pushing onto this top side of the map. We'll see if SK can do anything about this one. There is Lee coming flying across the map. And there will be 5 of those Korean players trying to take down this last inhibitor turret. And SK, they might as well go for some kind of play here. Enrated's flash will be coming up soon. He's got to come up big.
Yeah, look how early that hourglass is from Fox, though. He's been forced down, tries to re-engage as Prey takes him out. Svenskeren has been zoned, has been dropped. Forgiven's being focused by Prey and Gorilla. The Foss Bomb gives Prey a double kill in the fight. The Mega Rocket does secure the third, and now Freddy's pulling some attention from GE, but it's too little, it's too late, Joe.
No, it's just about padding the kills there in the end, and we see the GE Tigers getting themselves an ace for nothing, it should be mentioned there as well. They're going to simply push through for this one, and the GE Tigers will be the first team to book their place in the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship semi-finals.
All in all, just a fantastic pick and ban phase, and very well executed early game from the GE Tigers here. Yes, okay, a few misplays where they went maybe a little bit over-aggressive, but they knew what SK Gaming were doing, and they knew how to counter it.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of praise to SK for their first 10 to 15 minutes. They snuck a dragon early. They didn't have the strongest tower pushing comps, but Freddy put up a great performance. Forgiven, despite dying, still farmed well. but a weakness of SK's composition was exploited, and that is exactly what GE Tigers do exceptionally well.
I just love how GE Tigers in the lane swap froze the lane against Freddy, forcing in Rated to come up there and help him farm, and suddenly Forgiven is unable to fast push a tower in the bottom lane. That bought so much time for GE Tigers and gave so much farm to the Maokai as well, who just stood there and said, okay, I'm going to take everything, I'm going to get level 6, even with the AD carry as well. And that's really what they used in the start to make sure they didn't lose all the towers and fall really far behind and let SK Gaming play their style.
Not even just unable to fast push, but getting first blooded all on his own down there in the bottom. Either way, it's a solid win again for the GE Tigers. We're going to head over to Shox and the guys to break it down.
Thank you very much, guys. Another win on the board for the GE Tigers, and we got to touch on the draft again, and, well, most importantly, how it translated into game. A couple of things. The Z ban from SK Gaming, just one of the factors that were inexplicable almost about their draft phase.
The Tigers do not play Zed. That's it. I don't know what that was going on there.
We're going to have to ask SK personally what the Zed ban was about, but I think one of the most interesting things is how specifically tailored this draft was towards SK, particularly with the double AD carry ban, and then eventually the point that you were mentioning before with the early itemization, which you mentioned something about it being really effective. What was that?
Well then, I'll take over the host role. In the early game, Maokai actually showed up with a double Doran's ring and the blue buff to face off the Caitlyn lane swap.
If we talk about SK style going into that game, so they pigeonhole them in the draft onto Caitlyn, which has been the third champion that we've seen Forgiven play so far in the EULCS this season. So in order to counteract the fast push and get Caitlyn into a power trough, they initiate the lane swap themselves. They go ahead with the jungle follow. Freddy stays in lane in this game, takes a bit of harassment, but then what happens, they give Maokai the blue buff. Smeb recalls with that blue buff, goes into the bottom lane with another Doran's ring, so he has maximum sustain, great wave clear, totally nullifies Caitlyn's early game push. And then not only that, but when the blue buff wears off, as soon as Corki hits 6 and gets those rockets, it's right. The Corki goes right into the Caitlyn lane after they've avoided that dangerous 1-5 for Corki, where he will be harassed out of lane by Caitlyn, especially with a player as good as Forgiven. And at that point, all of the early pressure was nullified. SK did get some early turrets down, but it was really, really delayed. And it was just a really airtight game from GE. And that's been one of the things that's so extraordinary about this team in Korea is their preparation and their planning and their tailoring to each opponent is really interesting.
I think another part of it too is something we talked about before the game as well, the Diana pick. You know, we mentioned that it wouldn't be good, that Korean teams can handle the Diana, that they can handle the cannon. And what do we see? We see Fox pick Diana, really cannot get in there. And yeah, he may have gotten a little bit of ahead of Kuro in lane, but when it came to the team fighting, when it came to the conflicts that really mattered, that Diana just wasn't able to do much.
Yeah, what I don't understand is if you're confident enough to take Diana and practically dive the Victor in lane, why don't you play an Ahri that you know you can play very well and just try and do a little bit more? Another one of great picks, Gorilla on Janna. Fantastic. We actually have a replay to show us just exactly what he can do on that champion. It wasn't just this moment, and especially contrasting it to what Enrated has shown us. This game was really well. Let's get that replay up on the screen.
Now, this replay happened to be a blue steal from SK going into the GE Tigers' jungle, and now they have Freddy who's going to jump over the wall while they have the Diana kind of come in from the mid lane. They don't have any wards on the Tigers right now. All they see is that Lee has been hit with a Nidalee trap, or a trap right now, and they're just going to commit to it. But the star of the fight is going to be Gorilla, who's going to provide the support with his tornadoes, with an amazing monsoon from over the wall. And even though they do end up trading, I believe it's 3 for 3, the fight goes in the favor of GE with the pressure.
Yeah, there we see it spatting out. As you said,
the Maokai W is the thing that really allowed him to really make SK commit for him and not die instantly and eventually get saved by the monsoon. And when Diana gets pushed over by the Janet, she's all of a sudden in the middle and has to commit to using abilities on the Maokai that's just refusing to die. Victor and Janna being the main threats of this, just because Janna can keep the team alive and Victor with the damage, are going to be over the wall and have a positional advantage on SK. And I think it's a big mistake right here, not being able to use any wards or have anything of vision in the brush, or perhaps even place the Tibbers to have some sort of brush control. And eventually, I mean, this overcommitting to try to kill Freddy is a little bit of a mistake by them.
Yeah.
But what brings me to the next point after this fight is how Gorilla's itemization was really beautiful, because we've seen him before in the LCK buying that early QSS on the Janna, because against single engage compositions, the Annie has no one to stun. If you stun the team, Janna disengages. If you stun the Janna is going to use the Q assassin herself, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a draft that you just cannot engage into these kiting compositions. And it's really spectacular to see this play like that.
I do want to say, though, that I feel like Freddy's Gnar was probably one of the best Gnars we've seen since the nerf. He actually was managing his rage really, really well. The Mega Gnar came in at the right time. So even though they lost, I feel like that's kind of a positive we can take for SK. That Gnar looked pretty good.
Yeah, actually, SK did put up a better fight than we've seen before, and we'll have a good time defending their chances tomorrow. For now, though, we're going to go ahead and go to Chober because he's got Prey with him.
Thank you very much, Shocks. And here we are with one of the members of the winning team, the first team to make it into the semifinals here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. It is none other than Prey, the AD carry for the GE Tigers. And of course, congratulations all around for this team who secured their spot in the semifinals. And we're going to kick it off right away with the picks and bans. GE Tigers banning out Forgiven's best champions. And I want to know, what was the thought process behind that? Why did they prepare it that way?
일단 축하드리고요. 저희 이제 픽밴서부터 포기븐 선수를 저격밴을 하셨는데 어떻게 해서 그런 준비를 하셨는지, 뭐 포기븐 선수가 정말 그만큼 잘한다고 생각을 하셔서 밴을 한 건지 궁금하네요.
이거 보면 되나? 포기븐 선수가 그 그레이브스랑 루시안을 많이 다루는 걸로 알고 있었고요. 한국 리그에서 좀 안 나오는 픽이라서 저희가 까다로울 수 있다고 생각을 했기 때문에 밴을 했습니다.
Yeah, so we of course knew that he played a lot of Graves and Lucian, but those are also champions we don't get to play against that often in Korea, so we figured why not ban it out to get rid of that chance that we might not know how to adapt to that pick. Now in the beginning of the game, all of us here and all of you guys at home know that it looked like it might be a little bit close, SK Gaming putting up a really good fight, but did the G Tigers ever feel that threat during the game? 그리고 게임 초반에는 SK게임이 그래도 좀 강한 모습을 보여주고 한타도 많이 하고 그랬는데 팀원들 사이에서는 조금 걱정이 되는 부분이 있었나요? 아니면 처음부터 끝까지 이길 거란 자신이 있었나요?
이게 사실 상대 픽이 초반에 좀 주도권을 잡기 좋은 픽이라서 초반에 좀 불리할 거는 알고 있었고요. 저희가 무조건 팀파이트 가면 이긴다고 생각해서 좀 무난하게 풀린 것 같아요.
Well, we knew that their picks were going to focus on that early game and they were going to want to get that early lead. So we said, well, some disadvantage early on, it's not a big deal. We just have to focus on the late game team fights and we should be able to go towards that victory. Now, a little bit of a personal question. A lot of you guys who have been watching League of Legends for a while will remember Prey from a long time ago. He's been on a grand stage multiple times in the past, but we didn't see him for a little while in one of the grander tournaments. So I want to know, how does it feel to be back on a stage like this here in Katowice? 그러면 이제 개인적으로는 저희가 프레이 선수를 예전에 정말 모든 무대에서 볼 수 있는 선수셨는데 한동안은 저희가 이런 큰 무대에서 보지를 못했어요. 이런 무대에 다시 돌아와서 경기를 할 수 있는 느낌이 어떠신가요?
사실 이렇게 큰 무대에서 하게 돼서 정말 영광이고요. 이 많은 관객분들이 이렇게 환호해 주시는 열기 속에서 게임할 수 있게 돼서 정말 기쁩니다.
Well, it's an honor to be able to come back to a stage like this here in Katowice, and also just to play in front of the crowd that's just cheering for all the games here in Poland. It's really an honor to stand here and play League of Legends. And the most important question for the G Tigers, I know everyone's waiting for this. Where are their special uniforms? 자, 그리고 저희가 이제 세계에서 모두가 GE 타이거스 하면 정말 뭔가 재밌는 유니폼을 입고 경기를 하는 팀으로 알려져 있는데 이번 대회에서는 무언가가 준비되어 있나요?
저희가 이렇게 지금 입고 온 이 복장 말고도 다른 복장이 준비되어 있고요. 근데 뭐 결승전까지 갈 수 있으면 보여드릴 수 있을 것 같습니다.
Don't worry, what we're wearing today is not the only thing we brought to wear on stage. So if we can go to the finals, you'll see something different from the GE Tigers. Once again, it was Prey, the AD carry of the GE Tigers. Let's wrap it up back at the expert desk.
Thank you so much, guys. I can't wait to see what the actual cool outfit is. Although they also always look quite stylish to say. I said that by Prey, we weren't really worried that we fell behind early or didn't fall behind, that we were even early because we knew that we would close it out. Looking ahead though, for SK Gaming, tomorrow they have another chance. So they kind of have an afternoon and an evening to recuperate. I kind of feel like they can beat C9 and AoE Flash Wolves and make it through anyway in this group. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, we have to see if Cloud9 can regain some composure in this upcoming match. But SK did look like the stronger team, although they did show some glaring flaws if the team caters their strategy to what their current play style is, which they don't seem to be able to play something else. And I just want to touch upon the fact that how impressive the Tigers were in their flexibility, because usually their early game has a little bit more warding, but against SK, the warding was just not there because they decided to play somewhat of the SK game and focus on the towers, focus on the tower defense. They weren't really going for the ganks, they're going for what SK wants to go for, and it worked out wonderfully. And that's something that you don't expect teams to be able to really perform all the time, and they are doing so, which is really impressive to see.
Yeah, Rek'Sai also a great champion for clearing waves under turrets and helping up with that tower defense alongside the shields from Janna. I mean, I think that looking forward, if indeed we do see a Cloud9 SK match, Sneaky can play that Corki. We know that's a pick that he's going to be good on. So has GE set out a bit of a roadmap for how to beat SK? That said, SK, the Z-Band will actually be useful against Cloud9, so they have that going for him as well.
That's true. I mean, at the end of the day, GE, through their Group 2-0, this really doesn't come as a shock to anybody, but I think out of the three that are remaining, yeah, SK and Cloud9, both with a pretty fair chance to get out, maybe even the early Flash Wolves, although I think it's really between C9 and SK right now.
All right, so we're judging how good the teams are by how less mistakes they make versus GE Tigers.
Let's just use Z-Bands from now on.
They are the world benchmark, so I think it's perfectly fair.
You heard it there from Monty. We're going to go into a short break before we get into our elimination match. Remember, you can go over to intelextrememasters.com/raffle to win a lot of cool stuff, so do that during the break, and we'll be right back.
Extend your command precision with an 8200 DPI Pro Aim R3 laser sensor. Extend your command capability with exclusive Easy Shift button duplicator technology. Extend your atmospherics with a fully customizable 4 LED multicolor lighting system. Extend the life and accuracy of your gaming with the Rocket Titan wheel, the Cone XTD Max Customization Gaming Mouse.
Katowice świetnie się prezentują. Przekonaj się o tym w nowym roku. Katowice dla odmiany.
We are all equal in the fact that we are all different.
We are all the same in the fact that we will never be the same. We are united by the reality
that all colors and all cultures
are distinct and individual.
We are harmonious in the reality
that we are all held to this earth
by the same gravity. I'm a gamer.
I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer.
I'm a gamer.
I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer.
Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship live from Katowice, where we're on to the elimination match, the first one of the tournament, as Cloud9 fights to stay in the tournament, and so do the Yowie Flash Wolves. Let's take a look at the bracket to see the games that we've already played today and the ones that are coming up here in Group A. As we know, the very first game that was played today, the GE Tigers ran over Cloud9 in that bracket, and then we just saw that SK Gaming, after winning their first game, also lost to the GE Tigers. They are both going to play tomorrow. GE Tigers, of course, already qualified for the semifinal. SK Gaming still has a chance. That brings us onto the game now. Cloud9 versus the Yowie Flash Wolves, and after their performance in the very first game of the day, there was a lot to work on, and you actually said during that game, this Cloud9 can't beat the Yowie Flash Wolves.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but I think that they personally just have to completely forget about that game. Like, just remove it all from your mind and just play as you have played before. You have a lot less expectations now, and you have no pressure on you. You know, before you were facing the #1 team in the world, now you're just facing the #1 team in the region. Well, you know, it's a little bit unfair to say, some might argue and say that the #1 team in Korea, as the Tigers, could be the best in the world, but I think that from what we have seen so far, that's no longer disputable.
I'd actually completely disagree with you there. I think that they had no pressure playing the GE Tigers because everyone expected the GE Tigers to win this game, but everyone's expecting, at least Cloud9's fans here are expecting Cloud9 to beat the Yowie Flash Wolves.
Yeah, and that's a very important point, and I think you do have some legitimacy in saying that if they play like they did against GE, it was such an uncoordinated, unthoughtful play style that they were bringing out against GE. Random tower dives without adequate vision. That's not the calculation we're used to seeing from C9. They've always been that very smart team that beats you with the rotations, even if they can't individually outplay you. And this was just wild, just insanely reckless play, and you can't do that. They would lose to any team in NA playing like that.
One of the things that stands out for me was the draft that the Tigers did against Cloud9, in which they forced Meteos to pick a nerfed Jarvan over the Lee Sin, which in my opinion was a mistake. They should have most likely gone with the Lee. Now, for the Yowie Flash Wolves to actually do well in this matchup, I think that they have to take a similar approach in the draft as to what the Tigers have done, targeting Meteos and just putting the playmaking jungler in, on a nerf champion.
Yeah, some other things that we've said were weak from Cloud9. The Zed pick, I mean, once again, it was banned out as well. Would you just let High have that Zed in this one as the Yowie Flash Wolves and just prioritize Meteos?
Well, I think Maple's a great Zed player, so there's a possibility we could see it as an early part of the draft here, but since C9's on blue side, I think we're going to see it banned out again. Maple has the depth in terms of other assassins to get fed on with his Ahri, with his LeBlanc, so just take away High's champion in that case.
Yeah, and then go ahead, Joe.
I think realistically as well here, if you look at the Yowie Flash Wolves, they'll have prepared heavy for SK. And realistically, they've probably prepared heavy for Cloud9 as well, because looking at that matchup, they'd already expected who they'll play in that second round if they lose to SK Gaming. So I want to say they're going to come in here with something smarter, but I also expected that against SK Gaming, and they let SK play SK's game, and you just can't allow a team to do that at this stage.
We do see Cloud9 there backstage preparing, I believe Charlie with the notes in his hand to make sure that they have a good draft. Lemon scratching his head, that's not good. Actually, it's High with the notes there. Maybe a little bit worried, but as said, I do think that they must be nervous coming in. This is the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship, and one game and you're out, and the Yowie Flash Wolves could play freed, although they really want to make a mark here.
Yeah, the fact is that they need now this quiet time, if you like, as a group to actually prepare for this game and make sure that they're all on the same page, because that last game they just weren't on the same page. I would have actually loved to have heard the communication between Cloud9, especially that top lane double failed dive, because that was just so uncoordinated. And we saw Smeb just kind of walking around saying, okay, they're going to dive me again and I'm just going to kill them again. And the GE Tigers looked much better, obviously, than Cloud9. I don't think you can safely say that the Flash Wolves look better than Cloud9, because that's obviously a totally unfair comparison to make. But Flash Wolves, if they play the same way they did against SK Gaming and Cloud9 play the same way they did against GE Tigers, Flash Wolves have a real chance here.
Especially when we're talking about underperforming top laners as well. Balls has been struggling on champions that are not called Maokai. Even that Rumble when he got the first blood, sure, he wasn't in the greatest matchup, but just way overly aggressive on a champion he has been solid on, and his team fighting hasn't been there. We've seen him try and play with Lissandra. It's not great. His Gnar rage management isn't good either. So can Stake, again, we know Stake's got this Aurelia pick. That would have been much more consistent in terms of his teleporting and his playmaking in the last game because he doesn't have to play around that Gnar rage bar.
Now, I think for this matchup, though, these teams are both two that have been really struggling in the laning phase in their respective losses, and I think that the team that's going to come out ahead is going to be the one that focuses on the laning phase. You just have to recognize that, look, this other team could not handle laning phase, and neither could we. Just go for really strong lanes. Don't go for the Rumble, don't go for the Maokai, try to get a Lissandra, try to get some lane bullies in all your matchups and just snowball from there because the teams have gotten very desperate in terms of when it comes to the team fighting once the laning phase is over. So I feel like the team that kind of focus on the bully lanes in top lane, perhaps a Hecarim with Ignite, could be the determining factor for this matchup.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on a limb here and say that Cloud9 is going to look nothing like the team we've seen in the beginning, and I think they can win it in the lanes and in the later decisions. We did see the OE Flash Wolves going in for dragons and contesting fights that they normally shouldn't have at that timing. It's kind of the Unicorns of Love syndrome, as we've seen it in the EUL LCS a couple of times, but I think that's the kind of mistakes more likely that Cloud9 can really punish in terms of strategy.
Exactly, and just as the SK forced Stake to make teleport mistakes, I think should be the goal for Cloud9 in this matchup. You know, you're not going to get that big of a difference in the bottom lane, especially when you've seen that the Flash Wolves play these Janna Caitlyn, these really strong lanes that are kind of difficult to kill. So just really focus on the weak link, and you know, it's a little not too hopeful just because of the underperforming balls that we have seen so far. But you know, you gotta go for it, really.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out in the draft in just a bit. For now, though, we're going to meet the teams on stage with Chobra.
Thank you, Shocks. We here at Intel Extreme Masters have been taking some tips from the most successful recent animated films, and we're going to hit you hard with the feels early on in the weekend. It's already time to decide which team will be playing their last match here in Katowice. First up, the team that took San Jose. Will they be able to take Katowice this weekend? From North America, it's going to be Cloud9! And their opponents from Taiwan. Will they be able to win over the fans in Taiwan, here in Katowice, and around the world? It's going to be the Yoey Flash Wolves! Gentlemen, there's no more holding back. It's all on the line for these two teams. So let's get right into the picks and bans back at the expert desk.
Thank you very much. We will get into picks and bans in just a second, but they're still standing there. So obviously they can't pick and ban yet. What are we thinking here in terms of must bans for either team? The Yoey Flash Wolves did come out with a Caitlyn first pick in the last time, and we've seen that that is not something that has been working out here in general.
I think that the Flash Wolves have to target Meteos like the GE Tigers have done and force him to pick a little bit of a less powerful jungler. Now, if Cloud9 has done the research, I think that they should go for perhaps a first pick Lee Sin if they actually do target out Meteos and force the Lee into Rengar matchup and really snowball the laning phase that way, because Rengar is not really the champion to really impact the lanes pre-6. And If we don't see that, though, I think perhaps still a Rumble ban, because you do have to give credit for the previous wins that Cloud9 has acquired on these champions.
Yeah, GE, though, with that Nidalee ban, we have to remember that Karsa also a Nidalee player here, so that actually is a contested pick in this matchup. Meanwhile, it just is not with GE. They do not play Nidalee. They are not accustomed to using that champion. So if there's another power pickup, maybe that comes into play. But I think you're right. Shutting down Meteos in the end does look like the key to success, because we just haven't seen that laning strength coming out of C9. So if you remove Meteos' abilities to affect the lanes, then maybe you can trust on somebody like Maple to outplay.
Well, we are going to be moving into picks and bans here, and we'll see exactly what they're going to go for. Both of these teams, of course, probably need to have a change of mindset and a change of style coming into this elimination match. Of course, the loser will be going home. The winner gets another chance tomorrow, where they'll play SK Gaming for the second slot from Group A going into the semi-finals. We can see already here the bans coming out. Nidalee taken away, Rengar taken away by Cloud9. The Rumble ban from the Yowie Flash Wolves. Kind of expect it, even though, Balls has been falling more onto that Maokai pick. His Rumble is still very good.
Now, I'm expecting to see here a first pick Rek'Sai from Cloud9, if not banned by the Flash Wolves. 3 junglers have already been targeted, and Rek'Sai being the last remaining real powerhouses here. And to be honest, I feel like the Flash Wolves have forced themselves into a poor situation. Either you ban the Rek'Sai, or you take the Lee Sin into the Jarvan matchup, which we saw the Tigers willingly take that and be very successful.
That is a bit of a head scratcher. Let's see what they actually ban here as we do tick down.
They seem to be taking their time about this one. Actually going for Graves there, wanting to take that away from Sneaky. Actually a champion which he's got a 3-0 record on in the North American LCS right now. And he called it right there. Rek'Sai let through, and that will be Cloud9's first choice. However, it's left Maokai up here, and it's left Zed up as well, which I'm sure Maple is going to take away. There it is, the lock-in.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. We have seen those 1v1 plays from Maple where he does, the Flash Wolves really do play to get him ahead. So by giving up the Rek'Sai, they make a decision that they are going to get a more stable champion, I think, for Stake up in the top lane that isn't so dependent on timings, which he and his teammates didn't quite seem to be able to hit. And then there's the Zed pick as well to take away from High.
I think really interesting here is that we've never really seen Cloud9 being given a taste of their own medicine with the Maokai Zed picks, the staples that they have had in their comeback victories in the NALCS, making their way back to their previous best forms, but they have never really had to face a team that was willing to take the Maokai and the Zed, and Cloud9 locking in the Corki because they know how important the Corki is when you're running that Zed composition. So smart by them in locking in the Corki, and potentially the Flash Wolves could have benefited from taking the Corki rather than the Zed from the get-go.
I think they've never really faced a team that have left Maokai and Zed up there, and you're taking a jungler away and they just pick both of them. They may get their hands on Janna this time around, but Corki Morgana, solid bottom lane pairing.
I think the Janna is just critical because now they're going to have it if we do see C9 play that Kennen again. Now, Lissandra could come into play here as well, but, frankly, I have not been impressed by Balls nor High's Lissandras that we've seen so far. It's been really lackluster in terms of team fighting, laning, pretty much everything. They flexed it a couple times, but other than that, it just hasn't been great.
What I want to see here with the Morgana pick is, though, Cloud9 showing a little more flexibility, hopefully, and putting that in the top lane, because you'd have a winning matchup against the Maokai and be able to constantly pressure and snowball off the laning phase, allowing Meteos to really devote himself to the middle and bottom parts of the map. And the Jarvan pick, which is what we thought would be taken by the team that just did not get the Rek'Sai, well, we saw how weak Jarvan was in the early clear in the game that Cloud9 played it, and it's just really, the nerfs really affect him. A lot of armor from his E, and it's just going to have to be a lot of focus in the top lane with the Maokai gang camping for perhaps Stake, just because Janna is not good at setup, and neither is Zed.
It's funny when we talk about the last game, Meteos forced onto that nerf Jarvan, and they've kind of done it to themselves here, although, there are other options still available there. Lee Sin comes to mind as a big one, which you may decide to go for instead, but Jarvan locked in. Lissandra, the 2 picks here for Cloud9. So you said you've not been impressed really with Balls or with High on Lissandra. Looking like High's going to be playing that one this time around.
Well, I mean, it's into that Zed matchup where you can dodge the death mark. There are ways to make it work, and especially in the late game. But if we look at this fast push strategy, if Zed gets rolling and with the Caitlyn, with the Janna looking like they're going to be locked in again, they're setting themselves up for a nice split push.
I think a little worrying factor about this, though, is that we have seen Stake being somewhat lackluster, and against his team that is going to kind of want to engage onto you with the Lissandra, with the Morgana, he's going to want to build that Righteous Glory, so the AP damage from the flash rolls is going to be minimal. And Morgana, the Lissandra, and the Gnar can really itemize a lot of armor, and then eventually the Caitlyn, the Zed, and even that little bit of armor shred from the Jarvan just won't matter, and the late game would simply go into the Cloud9's favor just from draft.
I mean, you see that almost every game on Zed, though, and that's why I'm not a big fan of Zed as a champion right now in the current meta, because you go late, everybody's going to get QSS, Zhonya's, especially in the double AP era we live in right now, and he's just not going to be effective. You have to hit a very specific split push window.
Yeah, and I think that really they really put themselves into a hole by giving up the Corki when you wanted to take that Maokai Zed composition.
Yeah, picks and bans are locked in. One of these teams is going home, and one of them is staying in the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. Who will it be? We'll find out right after this.
All right, guys, it is our first elimination match here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championships. I'm Dua. With me is Quickshot and Deficio, Cloud9, Yoey Flash Wolves. One of these guys is moving on to tomorrow. One is going home. How do you guys call this one?
I mean, looking at the pick and ban phase, I don't really like what the Yoey Flash Wolves have been doing here. I don't like Maokai Zed together, because once you log into Maokai and the Zed, you know it's going to be like purely physical damage coming from your carries, and Zed and Caitlyn in this case, because Koik was taken away as well. So now, going late game, you're going to have Rek'Sai and Gnar being basically unkillable.
It's going to be so difficult for Sneaky's Corki, though, to kill a Maokai on the other side. So I think both teams have got similar sort of weaknesses. A lot of magic damage on the side of Cloud9, but it's going to come down to these team fights, Doa.
That's right. Welcome to Summoner's Rift once again. Cloud9 versus Yoey Flash Wolves. The Fnatic skins have been popular today, haven't they?
Oh, Fnatic Corki. Yeah. Pretty badass, honestly.
That's pretty cool. I like the Fnatic Janna. It's not bad.
Do we have Fnatic Jarvan? No. Casa, ruining everything.
Not today. The one thing I do want to see from Cloud9 is whether or not they can adapt from their game earlier today. There's been so much discussion about whether or not that was Cloud9's actual level and whether it was their intent. But what we can say is, as a team, they were down on themselves. They didn't really have a lot of faith in a victory, and I think that's why they played so recklessly and aggressively.
You know what, we all talked to them earlier this week, and they did seem so down, so just, they're beating themselves up about this GE Tigers match. Well, that's behind them now. I'd really like to see the Cloud9 that has become, in recent weeks, another force to be reckoned with in North America. I feel like they can certainly do it here, but they have to prove themselves. It is do or die for Cloud9.
It is, and now as their expert desk were talking about, the expectations on Cloud9 to perform. GE Tigers, you know, hey, you lose to one of the best teams in the world. It happens. Now, Yoey Flash Wolves looked okay against SK Gaming in certain parts of the game, but were basically not on the same level, I think it's fair to say. SK Gaming got ahead, they won the game. Now, obviously, GE Tigers managed to beat SK and are in the semifinals for them. And the winner of this match will face SK tomorrow, to see who will also join the GE Tigers in the semifinal.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a matter of who avoids losing, I think, because of all of the pressure out in the group stages. The one thing I do want to see is how the Flash Wolves play around Cloud9's initial laning phase, it doesn't look to be any sort of lane swaps from either of the squads, because Flash Wolves, I think, dropped the ball against SK, maybe not reading their opponents and their weaknesses. It's a little more difficult because Cloud9 are more diverse than SK Gaming are.
Yeah, we'll be standing in lanes here though, and we just saw what Cloud9 did here at level 1. They walk into the enemy blue buff, take this small golem away. So this simply means you need one less minion or melee minion in their lane to hit your level 2 on both your Morgana and your Caitlyn. Morgana and your Corki in this case.
You know, it is kind of an interesting difficulty that the OE Flash Wolves have in that they're playing teams with such completely different styles than C9 and SK, because their game against SK is going to be very, very different than what they're going to face here. Nice dark binding from Lemonation, but we're pretty much used to him hitting nearly all of those on Morgana, aren't we?
Yeah, he actually had a good Morgana game earlier today.
Wasn't bad, yeah.
Well, I mean, until the game was completely gone.
He hit his dark bindings anyway. I mean, that part of it, yeah, that was great. But the rest of it, not so much.
It's very sad when that's the only thing you can really...
We're looking for positives here, right? You're welcome, NA.
There was that level 2 Deficio, but NL and Sword Art playing relatively defensively despite eating a couple of those bindings from Lemonation.
Still, you're losing the early push on a Caitlyn in the Caitlyn Janna lane, and we've seen this matchup last game, Forgiven against Prey. Corgi in the mid game is just so much stronger, so if you don't win your laning phase on a Caitlyn, you don't really do anything. You're gonna need 3 or 4 items before you can add any value to your team, and that's a massive problem when you lose this early push, also because Cloud9 got that small golem. To correct myself, it was only Sneak who got the XP, so he got the early level 2, and then of course Elimination got it after. They got the pressure in this bottom lane. Mid lane of course is fairly even. It's a bit of a farm fest. Top lane though, Meteos is looking for a piece of steak.
That's right, a big bite of steak. But will he stick the fork in? That's the question. He's got an opportunity here. He's going to be maybe seen coming in. Steak, there we go. Balls jumping in. Steak might need to burn a summoner here. There's a knockup from Rek'Sai trying to get away. There's the flash used. Is this going to be first blood? He doesn't have a lot of health up. Flash from Balls, they really want it. Cloud9, will they get this first blood? They will. No, they won't. They won't. Meteos, he's so low now. This is dangerous. They have to back off. What a colossal mistake by Cloud9. I can't believe they didn't get that.
I think Balls canceled his auto attack in the very end.
It must have been something like that, yeah, checking the auto attack. But man, that one feels bad. It looks like we've got a bit of a pause here after that as well. But that is not the start that Cloud9 was looking for.
I don't want to over-dramatize, but earlier this morning, Meteos in particular was missing skill shots, was not mechanically playing to what we expect from Cloud9 players. Cloud9 as a team made some very sloppy mistakes. You can judge the decision-making in the dives all you want, but they were missing skill shots on those dives. Talking about cancelled autos, talking about jumping in there, over-committing again from Meteos, Cloud9 not starting this game off very well.
Well, so this wasn't really about Meteos too much, because it was more, he was expecting obviously Balls just to get the kill.
Sure, yeah.
And then you wouldn't have to flash and that would have been fine. But as soon as he saw Balls cancel the auto attack, he's like, oh damn, I have to flash in now and try and get it.
Go for it,
and that
right.
was too late, so just big mistake there. They got the flash at least, but in the end you now blow 2 flashes for that, so definitely not in favor of Cloud9, except for the fact that Balls can still stay in the lane and farm, where we're going to have to see the teleport probably being used by a Steak to get back in lane.
I mean, you're right, yeah, Balls is probably going to get a bit of a CS edge from this at any rate. So, you know, let's see what the summoners were. Overall, you could say it's a bit of a win depending on how much CS Balls can get, but I think that flash on Meteos is going to really hurt, and him not being on the map, having to recall, we'll see if it actually does benefit C9.
I don't know. I just think for a team that is already down on themselves, within 4 minutes to fail what should have been an easy first blood, it's just so difficult.
Yeah,
the psychological pressure this is going to put on the guys is going to be immense.
You don't want to tilt now, and I think you could make an argument that they may have came into the GE match already tilting a bit. And
sure.
This isn't going to help so much, is it?
No, of course not, but again, it's not the end of the world. Nobody died for it. It's not like they jumped in and gave him a double kill or anything. Balls will get a bit of farm. We did see, however, the difference between like Jarvan and Rek'Sai. Now, we talked so much about junglers today. There's been a lot of jungle bans coming in. The nerf to Jarvan where he lost the armor on his E. It simply means his early clear is a lot weaker than it normally is. So once he gets to level 3 and gets a double buff, he needs to recall, buy his Trailblazer, buy a ward, and then he comes back to farming or potentially ganking. And that's where we saw Meteors here using the Rek'Sai early on to just clear, still sits on Hunter's Machete, then he goes for an early gank where Jarvan cannot respond in time, and that was a good use of the Rek'Sai and why people like her so much compared to, let's say, Jarvan at the moment.
Yeah, that's right, and it looks like we're coming out of the pause now. Meteos coming back into the top lane. Looks like they're just going to push this one up all the way to the tower, not going to give Stake rather any opportunity to get
they want to force
CS
TP.
next beat. Yep, and they will.
Yeah, very well played. Fast pushing the lane up here. Again, the Jarvan is not nearby, and you just want to see that TP being used. So now Balls on his side, he can run back to lane, won't really lose anything before the wave hits his tower, and you now have that global advantage to try and make a play.
Yeah, we do see double Doran's rings for Stake as well. So most likely going to follow it with that Righteous Glory. It's something that we're seeing become more and more standard, I think, is the term for the top laners in this situation. There is Balls returning to lane to Officio. And we haven't seen too much of High in this middle lane against Maple, both reaching near level 6. High opting to go for the flash ignite, no defensive summoners this time around. We'll see how effectively he can play on this Lissandra. Not had the greatest of showings in recent weeks in the North American LCS.
No, for now he's just going to sit and farm. He needs to get that arm guard and obviously the hourglass fairly early on to prevent the all-in. But obviously, I mean, this matchup is a farm lane because...
Ooh, here we go. Karza coming in. They get the flash from High.
Quick little play. High has to go back to base now. So yeah, it is a farm lane because obviously Lissandra at 6 can just ult to herself as Zed tries to kill her.
Right.
But this gives suddenly a lot of pressure for the Yowie Flash Wolves in this mid lane. You got the summoner blown, and also you get to push in the wave and get a good back timing on your own mid laner, which is very important. No potions for High. He just had enough gold for an arm guard. He obviously wanted more. Elimination though.
Oh,
he's dropping low.
elimination, knocked up. A lot of damage coming in from Sword Art and NL, but not quite able to get that kill. Dangerous business for C9 this bot lane though.
And it's the power switch. NL and Sword Art were struggling in the early levels against Sneaky Lemon landing, binding after binding. But as Caitlyn and Jen are starting to push a little more aggressively, they seem to be taking some more control of that lane. We did see a sniff from Karsa, but he decided to go back into his jungle.
Well, I just think
NL and Sword Art.
I just really like that play in the mid lane where he came over the wall, just easy forcing of the flash on High, and it's stuff like that that gets you really scared if you're Cloud9, especially if you're High.
You can see High here as well. So he was forced back first because he had to use the flash. Only got an arm guard, no potions, no wards. It's a terrible situation for a mid laner. So he was basically forced to go back and shop. That's why he just pushed a wave, went back to base a second time. Now he has wards, now he has a potion at least, and then he returns to lane. So this is basically just bought a lot of time for Maple to time his own back, his items really well, and not lose any farm on it. So nice little setup in this mid lane for them. And we know this team, they focus on Maple so much. He's the big carry for them. If he gets a lead, he starts roaming to the bottom lane, and that's how NL suddenly gets a lot of items or kills himself.
Well, Maple definitely in a position to start that play. High will be doing battle with him. 2 green wards in High's inventory. We'll see if he wants to make any sort of plays around the map. We do see that Karsa is moving into play. Does have the flash and the flag and drag, but High gets out with that Glacial Bar.
Yeah, it was very close. I think the Karza had been like a couple steps forward. He might have been able to knock him out of the E with the QE combo from Jarvan, but just barely not getting there in time. Either way, a lot of pressure put onto High, and you can see that paying off. The CS lead's starting to grow a little bit for Maple.
Yeah, definitely not going too well for High. I mean, it's tough with him because he's always the target at these big tournaments here. Teams will try and ban him out or pick away his champions. In this case, he had the Yowie Flash Wolf. They gave the Rek'Sai to C9 and traded for Maokai and Zed, 2 of the most common picks for Cloud9 this split. So that was pretty smart in the pick and ban phase.
Yeah.
Problem is still Zed Maokai together just gives you that all physical damage lineup later on that can really hurt you if you don't close out the game in time, because they're 2 big tanks on the side of Cloud9 with Rek'Sai and Gnar to basically shut you down.
So I've got a question to the guys and to everybody watching. High has been the topic of discussion in his champion pool for such a long time. I pitched this idea to Deficio and Doe a second ago. At what point do you say Balls takes over the mantle of NA Scara? Of having a small, limited effective champion pool?
I think we could be a little bit closer here. We'll see how it ends up going. I'm not willing to call that one just yet.
I think it's interesting. There's a little bit of room for discussion. Yes, you can argue High is making more decisions in game, but Doa, balls and Stake, they're going at it.
Yeah, that's right. Alt's use Meteos coming up. He's going to try to make a plan here. I think Stake's in a little bit of trouble. He's still got that flash, but will he be able to use it? No, actually, his flash just not quite up yet. There's a knockup from Stake, but it will be first blood going to Meteos Cloud9. Here comes Karza for a bit of equalization.
Well, let's see what he can do. Chilling Smite is down the flag. His flag is interrupted. Meteos catches Karza, gets a second kill on the board, makes up for the misplay earlier.
That's the Meteos we know and love.
Such a nice setup, and we see Cloud9, they put all the focus on Stake up here. He's the weak link on this team, and we often see how Karza just ignores him. He just leaves him up there on his own, and he's going to gank the bottom lane, he's going to gank the mid lane instead. He came in there trying to make a counter play. Not the right decision, and Meteos 2 quick kills for him.
Yeah, that's the opposite of what the Flash Wolves have been trying to do. A little bit of action in the bot lane now, and L in a bit of trouble. Teleport coming in, though.
Oh, let's see what happens. Sneaky's managed to get the kill as Lemonation's peeling away. It looks like Balls cancelled that teleport, but Stake, he wants some well-done Lemonation. The knockout's going to come in and secure that kill for Soldart. It's a 1-for-1 trade.
Not sure if Lemonation was a bit surprised by the cancelled CP from Balls there, because he kind of stayed trying to finish off the kill on NL. Instead, though,
yeah, I think he might have wanted to go down there and be a part of that, you know, Meganar or not.
Obviously, he was hoping for Yowie Flash Wolf to just kind of back away once he saw the TP.
Yeah.
But as soon as it was cancelled, Stake just realized he could stay and kill the Emanation. So
but there's a situation
misunderstanding here.
Yeah, it's going to cost Cloud9 a dragon, though. So right after that double kill for Meteos, kind of things going the other way in this game. And Yowie Flash was able to pick up a kill and a dragon.
C9 can push the top tower here and get some D-wards in the jungle. Because we know there's so many guys on the bottom side from the Yowie Flash Wolves, they are at least staying there now, not hard pushing it in or fast pushing it, but Meteos, he's sitting ready for a potential dive.
And important to note that in the last moment or two, High actually invaded into Yowie Flash Wolves jungles, got rid of both of those green wards. So Cloud9 have got a lot of information to work with on the Flash Wolves top half of the map.
And you can really see how Balls is putting all his focus on this one-on-one lane, because he's gone for Hexdrinker first into a Maokai. That's normally not a good idea, because Maokai is not going to kill you, and obviously you are against so much physical damage otherwise from the Yowie Flash Wolves. Nothing is really going to pop that Hexdrinker, but he's doing it simply for the one-on-one lane. That's why Meteos is staying as well. They want this tower, they want the kill.
Yeah, Stake trying to defend that tower, but okay. With the minion waves being the way they are, he'll be okay for the moment, but certainly a risky situation up there.
I love the information, though. If you look at all the wards, Meteos and Balls are going to have a lot of time to react to anybody moving up.
Oh, certainly.
So, at the very least, a little bit of planning should secure them that turret. Should drop in a moment or two. And Sneaky playing very aggressive with this Phage and Sheen already completed.
Well, it certainly should. I mean, Sword Art wasn't really in lane when you start off, and any damage you can get onto NL is good damage.
Still, top lane down now. Cloud9 gets the first tower.
Yeah, first blood, first tower, a couple kills, but the first dragon going to Flash Wolves looks like High doing a lot of damage to this mid lane turret as well. Oh, here we go, though. Karza coming in onto Elimination, traps him in the Cataclysm, and the ace in the hole helped them pick up that kill.
That looks so easy.
It was easy. It looked easy because it pretty much doesn't get any easier than that. You trap the Morgana and the Jarvan ult. That's it. Oh, meanwhile, some more action in the mid lane here. Maple in trouble.
Well, he gets sent to the Frozen Tomb. Meteos and High, they reply 1-for-1.
It's kind of weird looking at these two teams right now, though. Cloud9, they know to invest all the wards and focus on the top side, and yet Lemonation tries to clear a ward on his own when he knows there can be a Jarvan nearby. Yeah. He ends up dying for it. And then in the mid lane, Mabel staying towards the top side of the mid lane, again knowing that Cloud9 was up there with so many champions, and obviously just an easy setup to kill him. So two misplays by the teams and quickly capitalized on by the other ones.
Yeah, overall, though, C9 looking pretty good, pulling out to about a 3,000 gold lead at 13 minutes, which is certainly nothing to be unhappy about.
No, not at this stage. And with High grabbing that hourglass at 13 minutes on the clock, going to set Cloud9 up for quite a powerful mid-game spike. Once Sneaky gets that Trinity Force completed, and Balls maybe gets a little bit more HP, that could work into their favor. But Meteos, he's looking for Karza. He's going in.
He wants to get this red buff, and he certainly does grab that. Karza not able to respond. Stake not getting there in time, and Rek'Sai will just tunnel her way out of there.
Meteos is so far ahead and compared to Karza on this job, and he can do whatever he wants. His lanes, look at both Balls and High here, pushed fairly far up as well into the Yowie Flash Wolf territory, so they could quickly move into the jungle and help. And you know this Corki is going to take that tower on his own at some point. Once he gets Trinity Force, Caitlyn won't be able to respond to him, and therefore Cloud9 don't even have to put 4 guys to take the bot lane tower. It's gonna die on its own. Keep pressuring the map here. You've played around Stake so far. and he's fed you pretty well.
Yeah, true enough. Oh, elimination. Not quite hitting the binding there. We've got some time until Dragon, and you can see Oi Flash Wolves, they know they were down in vision. They're trying to bring it back and got a little bit more map control in the bot.
And doing the best they can. I quite like Meteos' tunnel placement. Got some defensive tunnels across the C9 jungle and even some deep ones in the Flash Wolves half of the map. So if he needs to respond, he can. Cloud9 may lose their tower in this engage. The Frostbomb defends it. They've caught NL, but Casa is nearby, so this could get explosive. Sneaky and Lemon wisely don't go in the door.
That turret has like maybe one auto attack remaining on it. It's going to go down extremely fast, and the Flash Wolves want that to go down.
Meteor should just go to the top lane right now, because they're pushing in the 2 lanes at once. Seems they just want to back away. They want to play it safe, but they had the pressure in the 2 lanes on the top side. They saw a lot of guys on the bottom lane, and once Casa shows himself as well, that would open up for a very easy dive onto Stake, take another tower up there, as long as the Sandra is putting pressure. TP is ready for balls. He's sitting in base now, so he can join the bottom lane if he wants to. No Mega now, however.
Is starting to move down as well, too. But it looks like Dragon's up in about a minute 30, so the teams need to start being aware of that. I think UA Flash Wolves should be able to get this turret without too much trouble.
I think,
or not.
Pushing them away.
Okay.
A breath of fresh air would knock it down, but Yoi Flash Wolves simply can't breathe on the tower.
And the
wave clear from Sneak, he's too good.
Well, the thing that's kind of funny about this is that if they push too hard for that, they may get chunked out enough where Dragon becomes a real possibility for Cloud9, so they need to be careful about that.
Or TP coming from balls behind them, and suddenly you have a few kills. I mean, trading the top lane, but Cloud9 is putting all the focus on this Dragon now. You've got the Trinity Force completed on your AD carry. Caitlyn has not been able to use a strong early game to anything, basically. This is where Cloud9 wants to fight. And also be annoying. Poor
That's so huge.
Yeah.
Leave that man alone.
Such a great chunk of damage in the top lane, though. Mega Gnar has just pinged, but Flash Wolves not really in place to make this happen. He's looking for the engage. The Glacial Path is going in. He's caught Soil Rods in the 2. Meteos is now being hammered on by NL. But here comes Balls!
Balls throws him against the wall, and he's going to focus down on NL. NL flashing in. Meanwhile, Meteos in the backlines being annoying. Oh, but here comes Maple on Zed. Meteos gets the double, though. Are they going to be able to get any equalizing kills? Maple manages to take out High. But there's still Seps up C9 for some nice control down the bot lane. Maple's still in trouble. That is 3 kills for Cloud9, and they should be able to grab Dragon off this. What do you think?
Just a great use of their power spike here. And yeah, Dragon should go to Cloud9 as well.
Dragon's
we just talked about how, again, you have Hourglass on Lissandra, you got Trinity Force completed on your Corki. You want to fight, so they seek it, they go for it, get a few kills, get a tower, they get everything.
Well played by Cloud9 at the end of the day. A little bit of scariness as the fight got dragged on multiple fronts, but Meteos 5-0-1, got the Tabi, got the completed jungle item and some HP from that Sidestone with a bunch of kills. He's currently sitting on 2,000 gold, but they've caught Karsa once again.
They get the flash out of Stake. Meanwhile, Karsa tries to come in. He's already solo health. Balls running away with that Mega Gnar. Meanwhile, Stake chases Sneaky in a lot of trouble. NL picks up the kill there. Meanwhile, the Dragon still very low. This one's going to go over to the Flash Wolves.
Well, wait for it. High is on his way. Got 2 kills now, though.
Oh, you think they're going to be able to do it?
Well, High is
they do.
Burst
it down.
He got through.
I spoke too soon.
Tough to call at least. A lot of fights going back and forth here.
That was
in
weird.
This game. Yeah, that was kind of strange.
That was a bit of an odd Dragon fight, but in the end, a Dragon fight that Cloud9 can be very happy with.
Gave 2 kills to the Caitlyn, but that's not really too much of a problem because she still needs a lot of time.
Yeah.
Before she's going to be useful.
We don't want her to be useless.
No, we don't want her to be useless.
It's been a bit of a messy game, though, on both sides. It's been a little bit of back and forth, not the most smooth decision-making here, but for now, C9 is there we go.
Power.
Finally, the auto takes on that bot turret, and so Yoe will finally claim their first turret of the game.
Yeah, I agree with that, Dora. There's been a little bit of misplays here and there, but overall, Cloud9 have been more aggressive. They've been more in the face of the Flash Wolves, and it's thanks to that sort of proactive gameplay that has allowed Cloud9 to get 3 towers, to get the Dragons, to have an advantage in kills and the gold advantage. The only thing is, can they keep it up against Stake? And the answer seems to be yes.
They're trying to right now.
Trying to.
It's been very clear there's been a mismatch in the jungle here. Rek'Sai is just so much stronger than Jarvan on the current patch, and Cloud9 used it well. They invaded into the jungle, found Karsa a few times, took his buffs, kept ganking his top laner. Now they're even going to bind him around his own red buff. I mean, that guy cannot get a break.
You know, it seems like this Rek'Sai first pick has been worth it for C9. High is doing perfectly fine on Lissandra, and now C9 going in under this red buff. Are they going to be able to find a fight here? They will. They'll get the ult onto Maple. He's in big trouble. That's yet another kill. At this point, is Meteos taking too many of these? Should he be trying to give kills to the other positions a little bit more?
Yeah, of course he should. I mean, you want your 2 carries. You want the Lissandra and Corgi mainly to pick up the kills. You're already going to be tanky enough just by getting 6, now 7 early kills. But at the same time, by you getting a Randy and Zoman and a Thornmail very early against a Zed, Caitlyn, double AD carry or double physical damage, that's not bad either for Cloud9. It means he can basically go in on his own and just tank everything.
Yeah, Maple unable to get anything done. And this is what you touched on in picks and bans, Deficio. That death mark going to be so difficult to deal damage to High. Lemonation's working his way towards the hourglass as well. And with all the armor Meteos is picking up, at some point Maple's going to become less effective, and Flash Wolves are too far behind to split push as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't really split push against a fully tanky Gnar and a full tanky Rek'Sai who also has a global ulti. So you can have 2 guys sitting in each lane, just wait at the tower and just wave click. The Zed won't be able to join the fight on the other side of the map. So you got 2 ways of basically shutting down the split push and force team fights instead on the side of C9.
Balls is about to get his Sunfire Cape finished as well, too. So this is quickly becoming like Zed's worst nightmare. A whole team full of health and armor. This is not a good situation for Zed to be in.
No, the only good thing, I guess, for Maple is you always build a lot of armor penetration on a Zed. But, I mean, if you don't have a target to pop, you're basically going to be useless because you don't add anything else in a fight as a Zed.
Very true.
Let's also be a little bit fair now. Cloud9, yes, they are ahead. They've got a decent lead. They should, in theory, be able to keep this lead up. But if you contrast this game to what SK did earlier in the day, there's quite big differences. Cloud9 not really having a great day on the stage.
Well, it seems like, I mean, in SK's game, they were just constantly pushing, just constantly putting the pressure onto lanes, and UAE Flash Wolves couldn't handle it. This time, Meteos is the one moving around the maps, making big plays. They're going to try to make a play here on Balls instead. UAE Flash Wolves trying to get a kill for themselves. Balls already getting very tanky. There's a death mark going down. Should be one they can pick up. They used so much on him, though. Wow. And that might give C9 a Baron here.
Well, let's see what Cloud9 can do. We do see both Stake and NL moving into range. This could be dangerous indeed. Vengeful Maelstrom is going to buy some more time. Meteos is going for the gate. They've got Never Losers, ironically, who lost today. Now they've turned their attention to Stake. They want him well done. Sword Arts joined the fight late. Baron has been stopped, though.
I think that Stake is pretty charred at this point. But C9, no Baron, but 2 more kills.
Like it, Dora? Is that the way you like it?
Medium well, usually for me. Sometimes I go back and forth, but either way, no matter how Stake is done in this game, it's not good for UAE Flash Wolves.
No, it is not looking too good for him. So
have we made enough Stake jokes yet?
I think so. There's been a lot of feeding people. He's been well done.
Have we hit our quota? All right.
Close to.
Is there ever a quota on Stake jokes?
We'll find out, right?
The answer should be no. The answer to that question should be no.
Oh, Meteos, man. This guy has just been such a superstar for Cloud9 in this game. You know, this is what they really needed to have happen, and he has been around the map, making things go Cloud9's way in all 3 lanes. And is there really anything UAE Flash Wolves can do against this? I mean, the Zed's not really doing a whole lot. Maokai, yeah, maybe you can get the bat lines, but again, you need damage to follow up that engage, right?
Exactly, and that's the problem, and why Cloud9 at the moment is kind of just chilling back, waiting for dragons to spawn and trying to react to what UAE Flash Wolves are doing, because they're the ones who are trying to make the plays. Yes, Balls went down, he was pushing the lane up, barely any wards to spot him, but he gave 2 kills for C9 because they started the Baron and forced Flash Wolves to come and stop it, and then suddenly you have the engage. Dragon 30 seconds should go over to Cloud9 as well. Might even be able to get more because Balls is already here. High is pushing the mid lane while Stake is stuck in the top lane. He has teleport ready though.
Wow, Cloud9 do have a lot of members, but they need to deal with all of that wave clear from Maple. Can actually cost them a tower, so Flash Wolves get their 2nd tower of the game, but Cloud9 is still grouped up on the bottom with Dragon spawning shortly.
It's a little bit weird play here. You don't have to give up that tower for free to a Maokai who's already been shot down quite a lot, and you have Rek'Sai ulti or a TP from your Gnar to kind of defend it easily and still get control of the Dragon where you can start to fight yourself. So I didn't feel like C9 had to give up that tower. Instead though, they really want to fight here.
Yeah.
Stake is coming in.
Dragon pulled out of the pit now by Cloud9. There's a teleport for Stake. He's going to get locked up immediately. Able to back off into his team
as well.
Yep. Balls could get there. He came in with the teleport dragon, activated yet again by Cloud9, and Yoli Flash Wolves just looks so uncomfortable here in the river. Are they going to be able to find an angle here? Balls ready to come over the wall at the moment's notice, and High comes in. He's going to get the ult onto Sword Art. Meanwhile, the counter engage from Yoi Flash Wolves. High, Zonia's Maple still with the kill, and what an ult for Balls, throwing everyone into the wall there. Lemon Nation Meteos coming through. Balls still in there again. Sword Art manages to get out. Here comes Sneaky, low health. It is okay though. NL and Sword Art on the run. Meteos, he's not done yet. Sneaky coming in. There's the kill onto NL. A double yet again for Meteos. How many times have we seen that this game? And C9 with another team fight win. 15-8 the kill score now. 2 for 4 in that engage, and it looked so scary for Cloud9. For a second
we did see Maple get a kill early. NL was untouched for so long, but it seems the LCS teams are showing that Gnar can still be relevant. Look for Balls to get the stun against the wall in a moment.
So what C9 is doing is they're waiting for Balls to build up his rage first. That's why once High goes in, you can see Balls not really joining. He's just standing in the back auto attacking. He needs that Mega now, and that's why the Yoi Flash Wolf can single out High, get the first kill. Now Meganar comes, however, and there's a nice juicy wall right there. Flash smacked him into it, and that's how you win a team fight.
Absolutely,
so well
man.
played.
Really leaves Maple on his own too against the rest of Cloud9. Ball's really doing work with that Gnar. Yeah, NL just kind of stuck around a little bit too much there. You need to get out of there.
It's so tough though, right? Because you're playing as Caitlyn that even though you've got Edge and Shiv, you're still not powerful enough. It takes such a long time for Caitlyn to become relevant or able to deal with the front line that Cloud9 has in front of them.
You're so fragile too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. You don't really add anything to your team except for maybe wave clear. But we have seen how Cloud9 don't really care about you defending your lanes. Instead, they walk into your jungle and try and collapse on you there, maybe even dive with Lissandra going in with Hourglass. Gonna be completed soon for Elimination as well. BT for the Corki, gonna be a QSS soon for Sneaky, and then suddenly again the Zed is completely out of targets. I mean, for Yoi Flash Wolves, we might see them just try and cut out these fights here, really time that Mega Gnar from Balls, and when the engage happens from High, you disengage with the Janna, you wait for the ultis to be popped, you wait for the Mega Gnar to run out, and then you try and re-engage and see if you can get down someone.
Or if you're the Flash Wolves, you sneak a tower when you realize Cloud9 is going to trade for the top. It's 1 for 1. Flash Wolves have not stopped though. We're in a little bit of a race scenario. This is a 2 for 1 trade. Flash Wolves, will they lose their inhibitor turret? That's the question. Sneaky and Balls, they're hammering away, and it seems like Stake is going to do the best he can to clear this wave out. Balls is going to go Mega. Look in the middle lane there, Doa. Cloud9 trying to chase the Flash Wolves down.
Yeah, I think they got their money's worth of that one. Getting the inhibitor up in top lane, or inhibitor turret rather, up in top lane, pretty big for Cloud9. They can still defend that mid lane inhibitor turret fairly easily, so I don't know if that was quite the best trade for Yoi Flash Wolves there. What do you think, Deficio?
It's the kind of trades you feel like you have to make when you're behind to try and get at least some global goal for yourself, but no opening up your inhibitor. Of course not worth it for the Yoi Flash Wolves. Did, however, get enough gold for Last Whisper now on your Caitlyn, so they're really trying to just find goals somewhere on the map. You gotta see if Never Lose can potentially carry the game for you. And that's why they're going for the trades, despite giving up an inhibitor tower.
I think it's actually super important that Cloud9 exposed that inhibitor turret, because it makes life so much more difficult for Flash Wolves. If they're ever caught out of position, if they ever give up control on the map, they lose that inhibitor, and the ability to buy time and farm and just wave clear at the inhibitor turret is now effectively removed.
It is nice to get that, but at the same time, I feel like if you're Cloud9, you can't make a trade like that again, because you've got this lead. You can just wait for the next dragon. You can just wait for possibly fighting, baiting a fight at Baron or something like that, and it looks like blue buff is taken. Oh, but Karza may pay for that. There's the ult on him. They're going to get the kill. Blue buff taken right back by Cloud9, going over to High. And this could lead to another objective or two.
Yeah, it looks like Cloud9 may want to set up for Baron. There's no threat of Smite, and there's still full vision of Maple.
Yeah.
If Flash will start a fight, they are split up. You can see NL's trying to reposition with the rest of his team. There's no Hourglass on Lemonation or a Soul Shackle.
They've got Mega Gnar.
Keep that in mind. We do see that Righteous Glory's going in. Balls jumps backwards, doesn't manage to stun anybody up. And Meteos is tanking up the Flash Wolves for days. Baron's been stopped though, and the fight continues.
Yeah, Cloud9 pushed off of that one. Mega Gnar was there in time, but Yoi Flash Wolves, wisely backing off so to not get ulted like they did in that fight down by Dragons. So either way, C9 thought, hey, maybe we could get it backed off. Nobody killed. And can they defend this mid lane though? It looks like they can.
Yeah, they are here at least. So kill into Kaz, a bit of a greedy play at first to try and steal that blue buff. gave their opening for Cloud9, but Yori Flash Wolves are still doing a decent enough job like staying in the game and not falling further behind at this point. We talked so much about this open inhibitor in the top lane. It's not like Cloud9 has anyone who's gonna like rush down and just instantly destroy it, because it's gonna be the two tanks split pushing, so it's gonna take a while to kill it if they ever get that far down. And that's again why I think the Yori Flash Wolves will be okay in their point of view with the trade. And if they can keep, you know, Cloud9 just around this Baron and keep stopping it, you get further and further into the game where the death timers get longer and longer, and then one mistake suddenly is gonna cost you a lot. And that's could be a problem for Cloud9, despite them having such a good late game setup with all this armor they can stack against the Yori Flash Wolves.
We do see their Cloud9 though, they've sort of stalled out on those inner turrets. Cloud9 have not made a big push down the lanes, been waiting for Flash Wolves to make plays, and it actually feels like Cloud9's put a lot of emphasis around the Dragon, because again, starting to get close to spawning time, Cloud9 have prioritized vision around Baron. At this stage in the game, you could start considering trades one way or the other.
I think it's starting to get a little bit dangerous for Cloud9, actually, when you think about where that late game Maokai is going to be. And despite the fact that, yeah, you can just build armor against the Flash Wolves, Caitlyn late game still does a ton of damage. So the later this game goes, even though Zed falls off, you see, you know, maybe Lissandra falling off, Corki falling off. Is Nar's presence and Sneaky's presence on Rek'Sai going to be enough to make up for that? I mean, where do you see these two teams, Deficio, if we go into this kind of super late game here?
I mean, super late game, I still feel like C9 will be in a good spot just to single out the Caitlyn, but it's not going to be like, oh, you have no chance of winning the fight for Yori Flash Wolves' side. And again, that's the worry. If you go full late game when you have had this massive lead and you make a mistake, you're dead for like, what, 70 seconds, 80 seconds, suddenly Baron is gone, suddenly the enemy team can start pushing back down. Cloud9 in their case, you have Rek'Sai, you have Gnar, use them, apply pressure on the side lanes, use these minions to start a slow push potentially, and then spread out the Yori Flash Wolves instead of allowing them to just stay together as a group, which we have seen for such a long time. Cloud9 is not playing the entire map, and that's kind of weird because normally they're very good at using the side lanes to their advantage.
While Dragon spawning has just spawned, you can see with Balls pushing the bottom lane and Cloud9 grouped up in the middle lane. They've committed to the tower. Meteor as well as High. He's flashed for that one. They've caught Maple out. We do see the Cataclysm coming up for Casa. He's trying to defend. The tower's going to fall in the background as Elimination goes golden.
Yeah, Stake getting into the back lines causing a little bit of trouble for Elimination as he gets taken out. Meanwhile, Balls has to jump away from that one. Sneaky got chunked out as well. And Stake just getting to be that super tanky Maokai. Meanwhile, Maple comes back in and grabs a kill. And Cloud9 with Dragon just coming up. Did they really need to try to dive that turret?
No, they did not. They could just keep poking on it, wait for Dragon to spawn. You had the good position to quickly move down to Dragon. After warding behind you, you could spot the Yori Flash Wolves all the way down. They had no reason to dive right there. And at the same time, it's the same deal. You basically allow the Flash Wolves to stay together as 5 or 4, at least with a teleport, making it so much harder to make these plays here. Use the map to your advantage.
And there's the Dragon for the Flash Wolves on Meteos. Burrows his way out of that one, but again, you just have to go back to that dive under the mid turret that High tried onto Maple. They could have, just like you said, backed out, taking that Dragon. It would have been their third, but now things are very questionable again.
Oh, Meteos may overcommit here. Decides actually to back. Now we do see, Balls is teleporting from behind. They've caught NL.
Wow,
that's
Meteos.
Another kill, and Balls is continuing. He hops over, doesn't connect with the boomerang though, and force back. And that's actually slight role reversal now. Balls in Stake. That's Mega Gnar against Mega Tree. Throws the chimney, and Stake manages to get away.
That's a sentence I never thought I'd hear a human being say, but it's a good job.
Go back to that Dragon play earlier. Cloud9 were caught out by Flash Wolves re-engaging. This time round, Flash Wolves are caught out by Cloud9 re-engaging. The teleport is down for Balls, so keep that in mind if they want to play those side lane pushes.
The game's getting a little bit sloppy, I think, on both sides at this point. You know, Cloud9, I kind of am starting to say, I feel like I'm seeing a little bit of the desperation come in that we saw against the GE Tigers, but they don't really need to be that desperate, do they?
No, not at all.
I don't think so.
No, of course not. I mean, you had a massive goal lead. You played it so well in the early game where you kept basically playing around the enemy jungle and like denying them all the vision, and you could just get all the farm and you could push 2 lanes at once, and that was how you're going to set it up, and you could continue just to dive Stake, honestly, or push him away, take another tower in that case. And we've just seen for the last 10 minutes that Cloud9 seems to lack a plan of like how are we going to close out this game, and that's why they keep dancing around this Baron itself that we've seen started and stopped a few times. Now they go for more of a, not a desperation dive in the mid lane, but just a bit too over-aggressive, honestly. And they get punished for it, buying more time for the Flash Wolves to really defend and go for this full late game where every mistake really counts.
Deficio, it was going to happen at some point this weekend, and I'm going to say it now. If Admiral Akbar were talking to the OE Flash Wolves in Cloud9,
oh boy,
he would look at Baron and say, don't go for it, it's a trap. And at the moment, Ball's trying to play around the vision. He's going to get caught up by Stake, Doa.
Oh man, that's right. Balls manages to hop out on Stake's head. Stake taking a lot of damage, actually, on the way out.
But it's true, though. These teams, they're both focusing so much on Baron.
I mean, one team is trying to defend it, another team is trying to take it, so it's a bit of a weird dance going around here. Not exactly balls, though, you want to engage on from the Flash Wolves side. Means they get chunked, and Cloud9 back to the Baron here. If you manage to set a proper vision in this red side jungle, which you have had earlier, not just one layer outside the Baron, you need to go in around the Raptor camp, you need to go, ahead of the red buff, place some wards there so you can see the Flash Wolves move onto the Baron, and then of course have 2 pink wards in the river itself to deny vision around the Baron itself. Then you can maybe bait it, have the Lissandra jump over the wall to engage, but your wards are not placed aggressive enough, and it's too easy for the Yoi Flash Wolves to come and place their own wards and just stop you from starting this Baron here.
C9 just kind of gave up all their vision around Baron, didn't they?
Yeah,
basically,
completely.
Yeah.
It's such a weird game. Cloud9 have traditionally been such a smart game, such a smart team when pressing their advantage, when using team comps to their fullest potential. That failed tower dive is just completely hit the brakes. NL has got his hands on a QSS, the Last Whisper, working his way towards a Bloodthirster as well. All of the time that NL and the Flash Wolves needed is being given to them. We're 35 minutes in. Yes, the Flash Wolves are down 7k, but that is incrementally less at this stage in the game. And C9 just didn't necessarily use their lead they afforded earlier to the best of its ability, I feel.
Yeah, well, C9 still with the turret lead, still with the gold lead, but at this point it doesn't feel like it's making as much of a difference as it did before. Stake getting caught out by that dark binding, but C9 looking a little bit more cautious. But at this point, again, we talked about that desperation earlier. It seems to me like C9 can just kind of wait for the next dragon. It's 2 minutes. They can just kind of keep the lanes pushed up, right?
Sure, I mean, they can keep waiting for dragons, but they only got 2 so far. So It's not really like the 5th dragon is getting close here.
It's true.
I want to see them go top lane here. Take this top lane wave, push it back so it starts pushing in towards this open inhibitor here from the Yoi Flash Wolves. And then you go back to mid lane, you push the mid lane up, and you have 2 lanes now, giving you information through the minions, where you can then walk in, or you can just engage the mid lane.
Oh, they're trying to engage on the tank though. Let's see if it works out. Sword Art's not with the team. Stake is down. The rest of Cloud9 grouping up as Balls is about to go Mega Gnar. Cloud9 can decide to keep this siege up. There's no front line from the Flash Wolves. They're going in. They've set their sights on this inhibitor turret, Doa.
Yeah, it's a good time for Mega Gnar to show up. C9 pushing towards this inhibitor turret. Remember, the inhibitor in top lane is vulnerable right now as well. A good dark binding could mean another kill or 2. They still have 20 seconds until Stake comes up. Dragon in 1 minute. I think they're going back to get ready for it.
They will, because look at the side lanes here. There's no minions coming in, so they can just quickly rotate, take that tower. Yoi Flash Wolves will be able to spot it. And they only had like 3 or 4 minions in the mid lane pushing up, so couldn't really go for the tower there either.
Have they given up Baron pressure here? Cloud9, teleport is available, Void Rush is available. Flash Wolves, I was going to look, it might just be the vision game and see what Flash Wolves decide to do.
I think trying a Baron would be very dangerous for both teams at this point, but certainly the Yoi Flash Wolves dragging up in about 25 now for Cloud9. They've got their position to possibly take that wreck side, just going back to the top side jungle for C9. Meteos going into lane again. And here's the point where we see if Balls can get Mega Gnar at the right time, and we see if C9 can win a big fight, because if they can win a big team fight here, that could be the kind of game-ending momentum starting for them.
It's what they need, They clearly don't really want to play like towards the side lanes. They want to go for 5-on-5 team fights. That's why they stay together. So if they can get one around this dragon, could be the opening for them. Balls is building up. He's Mega Gnar now. He's TPing in as well behind him.
Here we go, Cloud9. This is their opportunity. Where is Balls going to come from? There, coming from the blue buff as well. Yep, Yoi Flash Wolves backing away, and Balls, he's got his flash. He could try to flash all perhaps. Meteos, they're going to go onto him now with Stake. Balls still a threat, and there's another big ult throwing Sardart against the wall. Sneaky into Cataclysm, gets jumped on by Maple. Balls getting a bit low, high in the middle of everything, just trying to keep things disrupted. Meteos goes back onto Maple again. Kills coming in for the Yoi Flash Wolves, though. This is not going well for Cloud9. Only Meteos remaining. This could easily be an ace. Whoa, there he goes. Never mind.
So, notice what we see here from the Flash Wolves. They see teleport from a Mega Gnar, and they just kite. They just back away, they back away. Balls went in the last second he had it and got his ulti off. And then he just popped back into Mini Gnar. They could clean it up easily.
Yeah.
Very well played team fight here by the Flash Wolves. Knowing, okay, Lissandra ulti and Mega Gnar, those are the two things we're looking for. If we avoid those, we can win the fights here, because then suddenly Caitlyn has enough time to burn through these Mega Tanks and get the kills.
And you see Maple as well with great positioning throughout their fights. Now Flash Wolves, they had the vision, they started off Baron.
Man, why Meteos didn't go back after he managed to escape in the topside jungle. If he had full health now, maybe he would have been able to do something about this Baron, but as things are at the moment, I think Yoey Flash Wolves are going to get this one pretty easily. And yeah, they will.
They will. The number one team from the LMS region is currently holding the former number one team from the North American region. Cloud9 struggles in the NALCS have continued. Here's that team fight to Fisher.
Yeah, so look at the kiting here. You see the Mega Gnar, and they just keep backing away. Like, look at Maple. He's not going in. Nobody's engaging. The very last second before he does get his ulti off. But now, I mean, he's going back to Mini Gnar. Lissandra's not been able to do anything for high at all. And that's where the Flash Wolves can start cleaning up, because now Neverlose is safe. And look at Maple as well on his side. He's jumping 1v2. He's getting the kills. Just such a well-played team fight from them. And we really see how Cloud9 here, they don't have a plan. They don't know what to do. So all they look for is the dragon to respawn and a team fight. And that basically just got punished right there.
Yep, certainly seems that way. In that team fight, man, Maple just destroyed Sneaky too. His death mark is doing so much damage.
For sure. I mean, Maple played it well. I
had a loss for words to Fischio.
Well, I was just looking at balls here and like his lack of home guard. Not always a big fan on Gnar, because it's so hard to time it. Like, you have to go back to base with the Mega Gnar. But it's making, I mean, it's tough now for Cloud9 to get the right engage, unless they can get the flank onto the Flash Wolves and really get this Mega Gnar in there.
The thing is, right, Cloud9 stalled 15, 20 minutes ago. Cloud9 went for that tower dive 10 minutes ago, which put even more brakes on the team comp. And despite the obvious weaknesses in team compositions, Yoey Flash Wolves are simply playing team fights better. They are finding targets better. They are playing around balls as Gnar better. Highs, Frozen Tombs have been somewhat desperate at times. And Flash Wolves have nullified the lead that Cloud9 had earlier. And look at this. Flash Wolves are knocking on Cloud9's inhibitor door.
Yeah, it's certainly getting a little bit dangerous for Cloud9 right now. At Baron buff, helping Maple push up the bot lane as well too. And you know, I wonder when the next time we will see a Gnar win a game is going to be. I just keep seeing this Gnar picked up post-patch, and we've seen people play it passably well. Yeah, Balls did have a good ult in this game, but just overall, it seems so rare that you see it, you know, well-coordinated in a team fight. Stay coming in on this one, and meanwhile, the mid turret does go down. Cataclysm dropped. They're getting a lot of people low already. Karza Maple manages to get a kill. Sneaky picks one up himself, too. And Cloud9 forced to back away. This is going to be an inhibitor, possibly for Yoey Flash. No! He comes back in!
Oh, now we'll see if Maple can get out. Cloud9 managed to fend off the siege from the fact that NL went down. But I love the fact Yoey Flash was played around balls as Mega Gnar.
Same again, though. It got an inhibitor. NL this time around.
Just the turret to Fischio.
Yeah, almost.
Oh, just the turret, sorry.
You know, I feel like they would have gotten the inhibitor, but NL just walked so far forward that it was easy for High to come in and blow him up.
So let's see here. Balls was down the bottom lane to clear the wave, and now the fight breaks out at first. Stake in the front line with Karza. That's a perfect setup. You see how the Caitlyn is just standing auto-attacking. No damage onto her at the start of the fight.
Until
High saves his ulti. He's waiting for NL to come close enough.
Yeah, he walked way too far forward to get that last headshot.
But he's going to blow him up anyway. So once he goes in, binding as well, I mean, okay.
I guess he was planning on.
For him.
I guess he was planning on meleeing that inhibitor to death. I don't know. Caitlyn, not the best melee champion. Whoops.
Great team fight, great defense from Cloud9. I think a little overly aggressive from Flash Wolves would be fair to say.
Yeah.
Despite the fact they started that well, they got rid of half of the front line from Cloud9.
Also well played by Cloud9 though.
You know what it does? It actually summarizes this entire game, doesn't it? Like aggressive plays, small mistakes, back and forth, and we've still got this partial stalemate, but Flash Wolves are now the ones dictating the tempo, dictating the pace of the game.
Well, they certainly are, yeah. I mean, they're kind of making Cloud9 play reactively now, and the Baron buff gone, I believe, off of Yoey Flash Wolves and everybody at this point. Yep, that's true. So that will even things out a little bit more for Cloud9, but still push back to that base.
And just to update people, we have 3 dragons for Yowie Flash Wolves and 2 dragons for Cloud9. So we're not getting close to the 5th one yet. But it's now in favor of the Flash Wolves. And they keep pushing down here. If they can keep Never Lose in the back, where he can just stand there and auto attack away, then he will burn through the tanks.
Eventually.
Eventually. He needs time.
Well,
as long as you can see the Lissandra engage and the Meganar.
You've got that range.
You do, indeed.
Balls getting charged towards Meganar. I think that's the reason Flash Wolves are playing a little defensively. Keep an eye on that little timer. As long as there's minions, it's going to play into Balls' favor. We do hear the Void Rush. Where does Meteos want to go? He's looking from the sidelines. Does have home guards though. He's going in. Doesn't find a knock-up yet, but he finds on a Sword Art and Karsa.
Yeah, that's right. Karsa tries to come in with the Cataclysm. Balls in the back line now. Has used that hold already. C9 trying to kite back. Balls in big trouble. And look at this. NL just not even touched yet in that team fight. Now finally taking a little bit of damage. Dark Binding perhaps saving a couple members of C9, but here comes Ace in the hole. High force to ult himself. Does slow down some of the members of Yowie Flash Wolves though, but there's a nice heal from Sword Art. There's a dead Lissandra and an easily taken inhibitor for the Yowie Flash Wolves.
The Flash Wolves have taken Cloud9 down. 4 members of the North American squad are taken out in that team fight. NL and Maple run rampant.
Yep, NL got some good positioning in that team fight. Balls wasn't able to make the difference, and that is it. Cloud9 is eliminated, and the Yowie Flash Wolves survive to day 2 of the Intel Extreme Masters World Championships.
It has not been a good group for the LCS squads.
It's been rough.
SK dispatched by GE Tigers. Yowie Flash Wolves stepping up, digging deep, and beating Cloud9 at the late game. Something that Cloud9 is famed for over and over and over. And simply not in it here in Katowice.
No, full credit to the Flash Wolves here. They really played the late game team fight so well. And also just on Cloud9's side here, not really having any tools to get to the Caitlyn late game. There's no home guards from, let's say, the Lissandra either. You go back, you get home guards, you sit in your base, and when they push up to your inhibitor, you just TP in behind them, or not TP, so you just rush in towards them, because you know they're pushing your base. That's the way you can get your engaged with the Lissandra potentially here in the late game. Instead, it was a Rek'Sai coming in, obviously didn't really do too much, and we just saw the last few fights how Flash Wolves managed to avoid losing despite having this pure physical damage lineup. With all the armor and the early lead for Meteos, just didn't use it.
That's right. Well, it's time to send it back to the expert desk to see what their take on the game was.
All right, thank you very much. I'm at a loss for words, honestly. Congratulations, Yowie Flash Wolves, still in there, but Cloud9 is out. And it started, or it ended rather, the way it started for Cloud9, although it didn't look like it in the mid-game, because, again, that tower dive that was questionable in the beginning, it's just very un-Cloud9.
Now, we thought that the winner of this game, at least personally, would be the one coming out ahead in the laning phase. And Meteos on the Rek'Sai really was showing that he knew how to play the champion and was just really snowballing the lanes for Cloud9. But when it came down to closing the game and acting as a unit out of the laning phase, it just was not there. The engages, the teleports, trying to combo them with the engages. Now, Nara actually managed to purchase the cooldown reduction on the flash and the teleport, signifying that perhaps there's a little more synergy there that we may not know about. And it's a lie. It wasn't there.
Well, I mean, just coming into this game too, I think Meteos, we had a lot of discussions about this on the desk in terms of his itemization, because when you go up 7-0 in kills on a jungler, certainly it's an unorthodox situation, but at that point, do you just build a Hydra right there and try and like duel the Zed, try and get that split push going with Rek'Sai? You're on this very mobile champion on the map. You can put down a lot of pressure by yourself and nullify that Zed to a certain degree and therefore kind of win more lanes. Because if we think about it right there, Cloud9, he'd gotten his lanes ahead, but he was the really big one right there. Can't he just keep like pushing to that advantage?
And we flirted with the idea of perhaps going and investing, even though you have to pay a little bit more to switch it. The kills were coming in before the completed jungle item. Maybe go for a skirmisher's blade, a skirmisher's saber in the jungle. Now all of a sudden, Zed has no chance of dueling you with a Hydra on top of that, and now you actually have a way of winning the game without having to practice on that synergy that was, is depressing.
Yeah, you actually. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Team fighting and strategical play was something that Cloud9 were always really good at, right? And when this game got to, okay, now we have to group up and start to figure out how we're going to end this game, the strategical side of it, they just look lost. They look absolutely lost.
Well, and also I think you have to really credit Sword Art, because he had some very clutch monsoons. Both him and Maple really turned a lot of those team fights around. Maple found people on the periphery that he could assassinate or zone out, and Sword Art was so good at holding those monsoons until the last possible second to open up space for NL to auto attack.
I also feel like that game really showcased why Maoka has been a really strong pick for teams that or top lanes that are kind of struggling a little bit. You know, you have a really good itemization to just become a really strong tank line. You have the AoE damage reduction, and you have a point and click lockdown that you can just use for anybody that fails to engage properly. And then we have this replay which showcases exactly that. Now you have at the top side, Balls teleporting into the blue pit, trying to go for a really odd flank. And you have the Flash Wolves kiting back. They have this speed trend that's really important. So Cloud9 can't really go and push out of this area now because that would give the Flash Wolves the advantage. He uses the hop over this, and at this point, when Meteos commits to using his E, he's all of a sudden completely vulnerable. A Maokai W gets him out of the fight right from the get-go because he has no way of hitting the back line. And I think the hero for this fight happened to be Maple, because now he's the one that's hitting the back line. He ultis the Corki, gets him out of the fight, forces him to Valk out, and now you have Maple, Caitlyn surviving with the incredible monsoon and just dishing out free autos everywhere.
And you have to point out right there, too, that the Lissandra ultimate came in after Cataclysm was already laid down. Jarvan was really a very poor target to use that Lissandra ultimate on right there. We've talked about Cloud9 having these issues playing Lissandra. Balls hasn't really shown up on it. High hasn't shown up on it. And you have to be better in the late game about selecting targets. Obviously, it's not a skill shot, but it is critical that you get it on the right person. With Jarvan already landing all of his AoE, popping out of the Cataclysm, they had great zone for Caitlyn. It could have been held longer.
Yeah, we were discussing the Caitlyn pick before, and I also saw Candy Panda tweeting that it's not so good early. We've seen it a couple times here. What if it was all thought through from the Joey Flash Wolves? They knew that Cloud9 would be able to close it out. They had looked at that first game, and they wanted to go for that Monty.
Bravo to them.
Caitlyn is a good pick if you can get over that power trough. You know, we talk about it in the early game. You can get the fast push down. You can harass people out of lane. But then she just enters this very extended fallow period. But I mean, 6-item Caitlyn is still a 6-item Caitlyn. You're going to be doing a ridiculous amount of damage at that very long range, and that's what we saw.
Yeah, we did. So they pull it out here, and let's go over to Chobra because he's got Steak with him for a post-game interview.
Thank you, Shox, and I am indeed here with Steak. I'm very excited to stand next to Steak in his beautiful hair, but congratulations are in order for winning that losers match and staying in the competition here in Group A. So congratulations. How do you feel?
恭喜你，我们想知道你现在感觉怎么样？
感觉没有很开心，因为我们今天是打得没有很好，对，但是我们明天表现还好，第二场后面的表现有比较稳一点。
So at first, I'm very happy that, but at first we had a lot of mistakes that we made, but we're still really happy with our win today.
Sounds good. You should be. And yeah, let's talk about that first game a little bit. The first game seemed a little bit rough for you, and especially for you on Gnar. There seemed to be some team communication issues with your teleport, and you guys looked just a little bit dazzled by your opponent's SK Gaming. Just what were your talks after that game? How did you recover from that match?
你第一场玩那儿的时候可能有点沟通问题，可不可以给我们分析一下，你是怎么做什么样的改变才能恢复状态？
因为我们第一场只是输给是我们输给我们自己，因为我们打不好，所以第二场我们基本上都知道我们应该会赢。
Okay, so we learned a lot of what we had to do from our first game, and so we made a lot of changes because of that.
Well, sounds good. Of course, as the result shows, you did indeed. But even in the second game against Cloud9, Meteos was everywhere in that early game, ganking all around the map, of course, taking a lot of kills, and it looked like he was going to help C9 take the win. Did you ever feel like it was slipping away too far, or did you have faith in your late game composition, even if it was all AD?
你跟第二场打 Cloud9 的时候，看起来 Meteos 在全地图上都在，可不可以给我们分析一下，就是你们是不是有信心，到后期你们可以赢的？
因为我们拿到很多后期角，所以然后又是我们很熟悉的角色，所以我们知道我们只要撑到后面，我们一定会赢。
对不起，可不可以再说一遍？
因为我们拿到很多后期角，然后这些角色又刚好是我们熟悉的角色。
Okay, so we relied on our team composition because we knew that we would outscale them in the end.
All right, so having that faith in the picks and bans. Now, the talk for the Flash Wolves all weekend is confidence, proving yourselves, and showing the world what you have. You've gone 1-1 so far. Where is that confidence? Do you still feel pretty good, or do you feel that you actually need to try harder to prove something?
想知道如果你现在有信心吗？或者你要再证明一下自己？
我们应该可以赢 SK 啊，我觉得。
He feels like we should be able to beat SK.
Okay, well, yeah, that was my last question. So the rematch, you're confident that you'll be able to take it this time and move on to the playoffs in the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship?
你估计你这一场会赢吗？会不会到半决赛？
我觉得机会蛮大的，我们应该有机会赢 SK。对，我们应该是可以跟 SK 打。
I have a lot of faith that we'll beat SK, so yes.
All right, we'll see if those words stay true tomorrow in the deciders match for Group A. But that's it. Once again, congratulations to the Flash Wolves for winning that losers match and going to the last match of Group A. Back to the expert desk.
Thank you very much, Chobra, Steak, and Rachel for that interview. As he said, tomorrow up against SK Gaming, and let's take a look at the bracket one final time for Group A, as we now have all matches completed in that one for now, at least, as we'll see tomorrow. GE Tigers, of course, already qualified for the semifinal, and then we'll have SK Gaming up against the Yoi Flash Wolves for that second spot in the semifinal from Group A. Before we talk about SK Game versus Yoi Flash Wolves, Crumbs, you should stand by your convictions. When I said that you said that you don't think Cloud9 could beat them, you said no, but it turned out to be right.
It felt like they had a holy barrier that just could not allow Cloud9 to close the game out. And
it was made of steak.
Perfectly cooked.
Perfectly tenderized by that top lane initial harass.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll get you now.
But SK Gaming versus the Yoi Flash Wolves. Tomorrow, have we seen enough from the Yoi Flash Wolves? Some good engages there in the late game, playing their comp correctly in the end. I mean, we have to give praise where praise is due. But versus SK Gaming, I don't see the same scenario.
Well, there is a little bit more of a rubric of how to play against SK right now, considering, I think, the successful banning phase that the GE Tigers deployed against them. So there will be a little bit of variation in terms of their pick and ban. Now, can they actually close this out? The thing about SK is that they are a much more punishing team when it comes to snowballing the game and just playing very disrespectfully, very aggressively, and continuing to just press their advantage. So I don't think we're going to see as much diddling around in the mid-game as we saw from Cloud9.
I do think it's going to be a closer match than the first time around that we saw the Flash Wolves versus SK, just because the one dimension that SK seems to be playing at, and with a proper ban phase, as we saw the GE Tigers use against them, it really hindered their ability to kind of play that same style out, particularly the Annie from N-Rated, which by getting the Lulu out of the picture, then all of a sudden you no longer have the ability to protect your AD carry and really just drop the whimsies on any assassins trying to get into the backline.
Yeah, and that's a big thing as well. I actually saw N-Rated outside and pretty devastated actually after that loss, and that makes me think, how strong mentally here are SK Gaming. Obviously they've already shown the flaws. They've played here today like they play usually in the domestic league, which kind of points me to say, if they're just playing one style, you've got to be able to counter that style. And yes, they didn't do it today, but maybe tomorrow with the right amount of watching that game back, watching the GE Tigers back, and watching maybe some LCS games back even, maybe they can pull that one out.
Yeah, we will see tomorrow. That's it for Group A, though, when we're on the cusp of breaking into Group B. And to prepare us for that, we have Cho on stage with Edward and Mad Life.
That's right, everyone. We're back here on a global stage right here in Katowice, the rivalry between Gambit Gaming and CJ Yentus. We have two of the oldest members of both organizations right now. We have Mad Life for CJ and Edward for Gambit. I want to know if they have anything to say to each other after having played so many times in the past. 그럼 이제 여러 번 예전에도 만났던 팀인데 상대로서 특별히 에드워드 선수에게 정말 메라 선수는 서폿의 신으로서 불렸던 선수인데 할 말이 있는지 궁금하네요.
이제 오랜만에 뵀는데 예전이나 지금이나 항상 잘하신 것 같더라고요. 그래서 오늘 경기로 누가 더 잘하는지 한번 겨뤄봤으면 좋겠습니다.
Well, we've met several times for sure, and I always thought Edward played really well. But I think tonight we'll really be able to say who gets to go on top and who's the better support in this world. What do you have to say to that, Edward?
I know we played so much together, but most of the time we won, of course. But I guess it's a pleasure to play against Medley because he's one of my favorite supports to look at, and it's just gonna be a fun game.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's going to be the opening match in Group B, everyone. I hope you're all excited for Gambit Gaming up against CJ Entus in Group B for League of Legends here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship in Katowice. We'll be back after this break.
Extend your command precision with an 8200 DPI Pro Aim R3 laser sensor. Extend your command capability with exclusive Easy Shift button duplicator technology. Extend your atmospherics with a fully customizable 4-LED multicolor lighting system. Extend the life and accuracy of your gaming with the Rocket Titan wheel, the Cone XTD Max Customization Gaming Mouse.
Katowice świetnie się prezentują. Przekonaj się o tym w nowym roku. Katowice dla odmiany.
We are all equal in the fact that we are all different.
We are all the same in the fact that we will never be the same. We are united by the reality
That all colors and all cultures
Are distinct and individual. We are harmonious in the reality.
That we are all held to this earth
by the same gravity. I'm a gamer.
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 Ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship, where we have rounded up our games for Group A, but we have Group B now, and I am very, very excited to get this one underway with Gambit versus CJ Entus as our first game in that one. Let's take a look at the bracket to see the other teams that are competing in Group B. As said, first game of the day in Group B, Gambit versus CJ Entus. But of course, after that, we will have TSM as they face World Elite as well, as you can see there. So, well, a lot of action still to come here. And this one, it's one of my personal favorites that I've been looking forward to in this tournament in general. We also had the interview there with Madlife and Edward. Madlife, we're going to see who's the best support. Edward being, you know, a little bit down-toned, just happy to play these guys again. And there's just so much history in this matchup, Joe.
Yeah, there is. I mean, if we look at, just Edward versus Madlife, I mean, there's so much history there. Gambit versus CJ enters, Frost and Blaze, or Zubu Frost and Blaze as they were back when Gambit pretty much wiped the floor with both teams here in Katowice. Like, there's so much history between these two teams. The question is, who's better right now? Because I think we can safely say that in those previous events, the teams were on different levels than they are now.
Yeah, very true. I mean, for Gambit, in the EU LCS, they had a fantastic winning streak. I believe like 7 games in a row they won until they lost to H2K here about a week ago. Still, they have looked better and better, especially like the team fighting for them. The 5-on-5 team play they have is great. They still do have some clear mistakes or flaws that you can really take advantage of, and that's where CG Enders will probably study it and know everything they need to do, and Gambit is going to have to try and pull out some crazy stuff, which we know they love to do, and which is why we can never count them out.
What really stands out for me in this one is the fact that Kabashard has shown that he's a really good carry top laner. He has constantly won games for Gambit, even just from the laning phase, just being able to outlane certain opponents with bully picks such as Kennen. Now, a flaw in this is the fact that the teleport usage just isn't there. Gambit a little bit reckless in terms of playing against teams that have the teleport and can counter gank on the bottom lane. And Shy, he's no slouch in the top lane, and his teleports are really good.
Yeah, it's very different for Shy in the top lane. He's more the big frontline tank who gets kind of left alone by CG Enders in the early game, where we know Diamond loves to go and gank for Carposhot here, get this top lane effect, because he's the main carry on the team. So what we're going to see is probably CJ, or Shy, sorry, fight 1v2 for a long time. If he can manage to stay alive, then he will basically become the better player in that game by using teleport better than Cabochard.
Let's talk about Shy and Cabochard. Let's start by taking a look at the lineup for CJ Enters coming in here. As mentioned, Shy in that top lane. We have Ambition, Coco, Space, and Madlife. A very impressive lineup as is. If we kind of go through other lanes as well, looking at the jungle, Diamond versus Ambition, a good Diamond is practically unbeatable, and maybe that could be an in for Gambit as well, knowing that Ambition is, compared to Diamond, relatively new in the jungle role.
I think an interesting thing is the fact that Ambition's best chance is one of Diamond's signature champions. And I think that the really big thing about it isn't that the champion itself is strong, but that it lends itself to having a double sightstone and really allowing Shy to get those really good teleport flanks and snowball off of the mistakes that the teams are making by overcommitting and failing to take into consideration that he will teleport and he will make the plays for his team. And that's what I'm expecting to see. And is Gambit going to be able to punish the top lane and punish these teleports hard enough to actually counter that? Well, we'll have to find out.
Yeah, and can they avoid dying in the bottom lane? Because also Space has been one of the key players, honestly, for CGN this year. And normally there was all the jokes about, you know, Madlife being in Space Prison and so on. But he's stepped up and he's become a bit of a carry for them. And we see them use a lot of time and resources on him as well in the laning phase. Often you see them, when they win games, it's because Space and Madlife does well in the laning phase. And they use this 80 carry, rotate him around. Where Pinoy and Eddie, in a 2v2 situation, they haven't been that strong in the EULCS. It's more about these crazy plays to try to pull up. Eddie likes to roam. We've even seen Boots, first item for him, simply to allow him to roam more. And then Pinoy with these reckless plays, I think it's safe to say. When he plays Tristana, he's going for the insect where he jumps in behind people, where he flash behind them and shoot them back. And if they can get to play this crazy Gambit style, they might be able to surprise CJ. But if it's just going to be a purely standard game, following the meta, that's where CJ are going to be stronger.
And I'm not sure that CJ is a team that Gambit can really do that against. You might look at some other teams in this tournament and say Gambit could pull those crazy stuff off, but if CJ have done their research here, they know exactly what they're going to be up against. One key fact, though, is that CJ don't actually have their coach here, who's apparently got other commitments in Korea. So they're here without a coach, and that may make us see a different CJ.
Yeah, and of course Gambit here with Leviathan, who has been doing a lot of work with that team over in the European LCS. Let's also take a look at the lineup for Gambit, as I'm sure a lot of people here already know, but it's always good to see that one. We have Cabochard, Diamond, Betsy, Pinoy, and of course Edward. We haven't touched on Betsy yet versus Coco in that mid lane. He's the kind of player, when we talked to him as well, that has said, well, I don't really care or look at the person I'm up against. I just want to do my best, not in a disrespectful way, just in a mindset way. It is better for him, but this is a whole new ball game in the stadium. So how will he be influenced?
I think it depends a lot on the junglers here. Ambition likes to camp the mid lane and get Coco ahead in that lane. And what we've seen from Betsy in the ULCS is if he sees an opening, he's going for it. Like, he's not afraid to go 1 versus 2 or like dive you one-on-one in the laning phase and try and get some kills. And that's where Ambition can punish him if he comes in for the counter gank or like just 2v1s him basically and shuts him down. Because Diamond, we know he puts so much focus on the top lane. And that does mean Betsy needs to calm down a little bit. And as a young guy, he's fresh out of solo queue. Once you step on this stage, you really want to prove yourself. And that can maybe bite him in the butt.
I think one thing that I really want to point out on this one is the fact that a lot of times, you know, Space hasn't shown that he has the best carry prowess, but he has won a lot of games. But the champion pool isn't necessarily the hardest of carries. He plays mostly Corki and Sivir. And a lot of times, because this CJ team likes to focus so much on the mid lane, go with the double side zone, get a lot of wards, Mad Life a lot of times will the bottom lane, really try to snowball that out. So I think that perhaps being able to focus Betsy even more by sacrificing space could be a good way for CJ to pull off a victory here.
I'd agree with that, and my main point about Betsy, my main worry really for Betsy is if we look at Fox from SK, we saw him walking looking kind of nervous, forgetting to buy a trinket at the start of their first game. Like, how is Betsy going to turn up here? And of course it depends a lot on a player's personality. Some people will walk in here and be like, this doesn't faze me whatsoever, but there are also those personalities where they will go, especially if they get camped hard and die early on in the game, super hard to turn that around.
Yeah, we know though that Gambit and their coach Leviathan put a lot of focus on like their mentality and attitude in the game itself. Diamond had an interview a few weeks ago saying it's basically fixed all his problems. He's no longer, you know, tilting after they lose a scrim or if he falls behind in the game. So maybe that can work for Betsy in his favor. But nerves, and again, as a young guy, you playing on the big stage for the first time, that can be tough to deal with.
Yeah, sorry, I was just noting down because we got the poll results in from the guys that have been voting on the website saying that 51% thinks that Gam is going to win, 49% thinks CJ is going to win. That strikes me as a little bit odd just because of the fan support that Gambit has had.
Come on, it's Intel Extreme Masters. We all know that Gambit turn up for Intel Extreme Masters. You know, we looked at the Intel Extreme Master Cologne, which they of course won, and we were like, this is a weak Gambit team right now. They're probably not going to do that much here, and well, they won in typical Gambit Intel Extreme Masters style. So they're going to come here feeling confident, and with Leviathan there, like you said, he's given a lot of help, you know, in the psychological side, really, of the game. I think that Gambit can pull out some shocks here.
I agree.
I agree as well. I mean, they can surprise. If Cabochard gets a carry champion and you get a big 5-on-5 team fight, Gambit can surprise, CJ enters. However, they are a team built around players who's been, you know, on the scene for multiple years. Shy, Mad Life, they go way back. So they've been here, they've played these big tournaments.
But what about Gambit? They also have some of those members that played together for so long.
I'm not saying that's a problem. I'm just saying for CJ, I'm not expecting them coming in being like, oh, we don't respect Gambit at all. We're just going to do whatever, and suddenly we lose. Like, I don't think that's going to happen for them, but I think it's going to be a very explosive match and very exciting to watch.
You mentioned Cabochard on the carry champion. We know he likes his Morganas and his Kennen especially as well. But we did hear from Monty and Doa before I say you can't play that versus CJ Entas. That just won't work.
I think it just might if they run it with the Sejuani. Just a really strong, hard engage, get rid of Mad Life's Janna, and now all of a sudden you only have the Nami to worry about for the disengage. And Eddie has shown that he can play Morgana as well. A Kennen with Black Shield, as we saw in the Cloud9 G Tigers game, can get into the backline really easily. Couple that with a Sejuani, and I feel like you could play the Kennen into a Korean team with that lineup.
Yeah, I love that you say it, because we often see Gambit first pick Morgana and then swap it to the support and then simply take the Kennen late on and kind of like mind game you a little bit. People think it's going to be Cabochard top. So they have played this style before and they pulled it off. So yeah, I agree 100%. They can go for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you also said I love you. I don't know if you...
I heard that.
Yeah, I heard that.
I love you, Crumbs. Is what I heard.
I do love you, Crumbs, and I love you, Beard, so much.
Yeah.
Very jealous.
That's why he's here. We're,
there's two different
all a little bit
here.
in love with Crumbs.
We got the fluffy here, and then we got the beautiful setup from Crumbs.
And then we got the Dane who can't grow anything.
That's another story.
No, but guys, I would love to keep talking about your beards, but we have a game on our hands. And Gambit, Elke, if we're talking about it, Cabochard does have a really good chance if he gets on a carry champion. Betsy is kind of a wild card. Diamond on Sejuani could do a lot. So to me, it's mostly the bottom lane that will make the difference.
I agree on that part because Pinoy for me he's such a weird AD carry to describe because he has games where he's playing perfectly safe and he just sits back and he does everything you normally would expect from an AD carry. And then next game he jumps in 1 versus 3, he gets like 1 kill, then he dies and you don't really know how to explain his style. He's super reckless and like careless in the way he plays, which is both good and bad. It can go completely wrong for him and we can criticize him, or we can say, wow, he just won the game because he jumped in and killed Madlife.
Yeah, Amazing actually called him Pinoy Jenkins. I thought that was a good find. Just jumping in that one. If it comes to standard lays and standard start, CJ enters the kind of team like GE Tigers who can go even over a little behind and then just roll over because of their team fight coordination and vision.
Of course, absolutely. When they come, a lot of the wins from CJ have been making a lot of flanks and try to come back in these team fighting environments. It's a team that has been always really good at team fighting, and I think one of the really key factors in that has been Shy being able to carry on tanks. Now he consistently gets multi-kills on champions like Mundo and has really good target selection on Maokai, especially with the Righteous Glory build that we see on all the Maokais nowadays. And Madlife, when he plays champions like Thresh and Annie, even though they haven't been the primary champions for him this split, he's still able to find the engages and are extremely well coordinated with Ambition, who on Lee Sin, excellent champion for flanking. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a CJ perhaps take a small deficit in the early game and be able to come back.
And I wonder actually if, they want to go the whole Kennen route, whether they'll even think, Madlife, if you look down his stats, do we take that Janna away from him completely? Is that actually in our plan when it comes to bans?
I think they should ban it away from Madlife. Yeah. But I just want to see if Gambit can finally play a game where they don't really make mistakes in terms of their strategy, because normally what they do is to get a big lead early on, and then they don't really know how to pull it off, and that's where CG and this will have enough time to go late game and just pick the right fights.
We'll find out in just a bit and also see the picks and bans. But first we got to see the teams, and Chobra is ready to introduce them to us.
Thank you, Shocks, and we are indeed ready to see the teams. We've gone through Group A so far, but we have so much more waiting for us here in Group B. Truly a staple match in League of Legends, and of course for the Intel Extreme Masters. And what a better place, or none better than a place here like Katowice in Poland for the World Championship. First up, the team coming in from the Intel Extreme Masters circuit, winning in Cologne, it's going to be Gambit Gaming! And their opponents, hailing from Korea, finishing second seed in the first round of the spring season. Seeing if they can match up once against the powerhouses of Gambit, it's going to be CJ Entis! There's no much more to say. Are you ready? Then let's get right into Group B here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship back at the expert desk.
Thank you, Chobra. I'm ready too, and that's because of that intense bass every time the teams come on. You cannot be not hyped.
Now, I'd like to bring this up from the previous instance that we had and say that you said I love you and I didn't answer it back. I'll say it now. I love you, man. Now, for this pick and ban, though, it's gonna have to be, in my opinion, really focusing on the top lane. Now, I bring it up all these matches pretty much, top lane, top lane, top lane. It's about the teleport that is so important nowadays, because the top lane allows you to impact every lane. A gank happens bottom lane, bam, teleport, countered immediately. What I think Gambit has to do, bait out the teleport, from Shy, and all of a sudden you got Cabochard bullying Shy and snowballing really heavily up there.
Sounds pretty easy, honestly. I mean, despite Shy's teleport, he's normally one of the best in Korea and using it, but still.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about the top lane, different style from Shy and Cabochard, the carry and more the frontline tank. Yet, most of the bans we've seen so far today, it's often around the jungle here, and we see whoever gets that Rek'Sai really has the early advantage. I want to see if CJ is fine giving Rek'Sai over to Diamond and Gambit, who's on the blue side, and then take like a Lee Sin for Ambition. I think it's an okay trade to take, but then you got to get the likes of maybe a Janna coming in from Mad Life, which I would expect to be banned away, especially if Gambit want to run this cannon here. You got to target some of these disengaged supports to make it work.
Indeed.
And is that the right way to go? I mean, are you putting that much focus on supports when we know that, he said Shy is not, that he plays more the tanks rather than the carries in the top lane, but he carries with the tanks, which is obviously a huge problem for him. Mundo, for example, been banned out a hell of a lot, and when not, he's been doing ridiculous things on it. Surely when you look at CJ, and we've not really touched on Coco even in that mid lane,
no,
there's a lot of big bans you've got to go for.
Yeah, LeBlanc against Coco has been a fairly standard ban beforehand. He's a fantastic LeBlanc player, and you probably don't want Betsy facing up against him on that champion here in the start.
I mean, Betsy has no games of LeBlanc played this season, which would be, beneficial if you can bust it out in this game right now.
Well, we are going to be dropping here into the picks and the bans. Of course, Gambit starting out here on the blue side have first choice. And funnily enough, first ban coming out from them will be Hecarim.
Now, I think the Hecarim ban just shows you that you want to really focus on the top lane. Hecarim is one of the only champions that can go without a defensive summoner spell, get the Ignite, and you're pretty much guaranteed to win any 2v2. So 3 top lane bans from the get-go. These two teams are really looking to focus on Cabochard and Shy.
Trump's the prophet. He called the top lane focus, and we kept talking about Kennen, and then suddenly it's just banned away, and now it doesn't even matter for Gambit in that case. But I like the Hecarim ban. Shy showed it the last few weeks in the OGN, and of course he's so good with these teleports, you don't want to risk him diving onto your backline and killing them.
Now there was Zed taken away against Betsy, 2-0 in the European LCS with that. LeBlanc then taken away as well, 3-1 record for Coco, a dangerous champion for him. I think it's wise that Gambit get rid there.
Yeah, and we see as soon as Zed is banned, that's where Gambit says, okay, that was our counter pick to the LeBlanc, so we have to ban it now. Rek'Sai is still open. Again, CJ, they can give it over to Diamond. He's been great on Rek'Sai, but we've also seen him play multiple other champions, even the likes of Evelyn.
Speak of the devil.
That I'm not a fan. Okay, so Rek'Sai banned away. Nidalee should be coming in then for Diamond here, or Morgana, which we know they like to take over.
A concern here, though, is the fact that Janna has still been left open for Mad Life. So if they choose to go for a hard engaged composition, even though the cannon is not there, they have run Sejuani, which offers you the ability to go for that really hard engage. Janna, especially if she goes with the build that Gorilla has shown to work with the QSS early, would completely shut that down.
Honestly, if you go Morgana here for Gambit, you don't really give away the Nidalee because we know Ambition doesn't play it, even though he's a former mid laner. He can play it. He hasn't shown it yet. So if you got Morgana at least, now to take Annie in this case, but had they taken this Morgana, they could have built a bit of a poke comp, which doesn't really care about that Janna later on, but it seems like instead, full-on hard engage from Eddie.
Surprisingly enough, though, Ambition has actually played almost 30 games of solo queue of Nidalee as of recently and has almost an 80% win rate on that champion.
Oh, now he's going to pick it too.
Well, my friend, that's not... There's a reason why I'm called the Prophet.
Doing pretty well here at least. Scouting the solo queue and everything. I really don't understand any first pick though from Eddie. Yes,
surely there's better options as a first
like
pick.
Lissandra, Nidalee, Morgana. I mean, there's a lot of options coming in instead. We know Mad Life prefers to play the disengaged supports. Yes, he can play Annie, but it's mainly Janna and Nami for him. So it's not even a takeaway in that case, and it's not really a flex pick either. We've only seen support Annie coming in from Gambit, so I'm a little bit surprised about their first pick.
If you go for the really hard engage, I'm still really hoping for that Sejuani from Gambit, or I guess Lee Sin, but just something that can really get on the backline and instantly pop them. I think they really have a good shot on what they'd be going for. They're going for the Lee Sin and the Corki. Now, Corki is a champion that offers so much magical damage in the mid-game power spike as well that lends me to believe that perhaps an Aurelia pick coming out from Cabochard would eventually, because you need a little bit more damage because Lee Sin doesn't pack that much in the late game. Same goes with the Corki, and it lends your top laner to be a physical damage carry because you already have the magic damage from the Annie and the Corki.
I think Gambit can be fairly happy that they get Lee and Corki after first picking Annie there. I mean, Corki is the favorite champion of Space up until now, played in most games on it, 4-for-4 record. But what does that now leave open for CJ on the other side?
We can see double AD carry come in for them with Ezreal mid lane if they want to. They've played it before. It's going to be an all-in kite composition. I'm still expecting the Janna for Mad Life. You have Lulu top lane. Okay, Nami works as well in this case. And now with Ezreal mid lane, we might even see like a Giacomo composition for them, which is so hard to play against unless this Annie can flash Tibbers perfectly in the mid game. Because once you go too late game and you get QSS and everything on your AD carries, that's where suddenly Gambit won't really find any ways of engaging the fights.
Now, I'm really worried for CJ right now because they're picking such an incredibly difficult team comp to execute without having any frontline. You have the Nidalee, and if you want to run the Juggernaut double AD comp, you really don't need that Nidalee. You have enough with the double AD carry. Right now, you don't have a tank. You don't have anybody that can really stand in the front line and soak up any damage for your team. So this is a very difficult team comp to execute, and absolutely love the Twisted Fate pick. We have seen it work against the Juggernaut comp and can really get into the backline, and just if Kog'Maw mispositions a 2-second stun, nullifies the entire comp.
That's very true, but we have seen CJ and G Tigers run these Juggernaut compositions, these kite comps where they don't have a front line and they play so well around it anyway, because everyone knows exactly when to go and deal some damage back away. When you have Nami Lulu buffing up a hyper carry as well, you need 2 or 3 hits and a target is out of that fight. So for Gambit's side here, Jarvan top lane, I've heard them talk about it a few times. Normally you run Ignite with it as well, not a teleport, and it's just all in win your laning phase. TF Jarvan together, that's a fantastic combo of basically shutting down Shy on this Lulu. He's gonna die multiple times. Like, you can just dive him easily after level 6, not a problem. But really Gambit's composition here, they have to snowball early on. Otherwise, this comp from CJ is gonna completely outskill them.
They have the tools to snowball this perfectly. The Annie is gonna be able to always lock down the bottom lane of a Nami Kog'Maw. 0 mobility, 0 defensive spells to get out unless the bubble lands. Any Annie flash stun will get this comboed with the Twisted Fate. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see Space take another cleanse in this matchup, but we're not going to see it.
No, and also Ezreal mid lane doesn't really offer any pressure on a Twisted Fate at all. Ezreal is a fairly passive laner, and he's not even, I mean, yeah, you can use your ulti to push the wave, but then you won't have the side lane pressure in that case. So TF should find openings to go to these side lanes here as long as Betsy plays it well. He just got to be careful very early on that the Nidalee doesn't come in and like really set him back, and then he can choose the lanes he wants to go to.
Yeah, we will see a cool draft coming out here from Gambit. We'll see what they can do with it as we get on the Rift right after this.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Intel Extreme Masters. Gambit Gaming taking on CJ Entis in our first match here in Group B. Gambit coming out with the aggression, a lot of hard CC. Do you think CJ is going to be able to survive the early game, guys?
I mean, that's going to be the big question here, right? Because I think with CJ running the Juggernaut composition, which for those of you who don't know is a lot of, basically, it's a pseudo protect the Kog'Maw comp, but Kog'Maw is the front line in this composition. Right. You buff him with all of these shields. They have the Nidalee heal as well in this case, and so he really has to bait the other team into these engages, but a lot of hard CC coming in the lane, so it's about CJ actually living long enough to group.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, it is time, guys, to get on to Summoner's Rift and see which of these teams is going to head to the winners match here in Group B. There is Gambit Gaming, and on the other side of the map advancing is CJ Entis. On the red side, the crowd already chanting here in Katowice, an IEM Classic yet again.
I'm very much looking forward to Betsy's Twisted Fate. This is a kid that I've been very impressed with in the EU LCS, and as a team, Gambit have got so many tools to get out of the laning phase ahead, but I think it's all going to hinge on Betsy's ability to sync with Diamond and impact those lanes. Those first Destinies and Gates and Roams are going to, I think, really dictate the rest of the game.
And, you know, it's important to mention, too, this is Ambition's first game on Jungle Nidalee. Now, Ambition, the old mid laner for CJ Entis Blaze, and a renowned Nidalee player, and it has been a bit confusing as to why he hasn't played this champion sooner.
Well, yeah, we talk about this like every week on Champions. So that Ambition, he's got this great jungle pick in Nidalee, but now we finally see it for the first time here at the Intel Extreme Masters. It's cool to see the Twisted Fate on the other side, too, because that's something that we haven't seen ourselves in Korea for a long time. How do you think Coco's Ezreal is going to be matching up against that?
It should be fine. I mean, it'll be mostly a farm lane, but the thing is, Ezreal doesn't have a lot of wave clear pre-6, so Betsy can, in fact, get a pretty free ultimate right off at 6 if he manages his lane properly. We do see the lane swap coming in.
Yeah, I want to see how Pinoy handles himself on this Corki, and in all of his previous games, he tends to play very aggressively, really, really getting into the faces of his opponents, and Pinoy is the kind of guy that will Valk in, which could be the death of him, so we should keep our eyes on that.
Well, we do see the lane swap is being called right here. Pinoy and Edward do take the Gromp, and so Pinoy, a little bit of damage right here, but he will be heading up into that top lane, finding the Kog'Maw and the Nami.
Well,
it's a bit rough.
They're going to give that level 2 to Edward. I wonder if they're going to try something here in the mid lane. We'll see. But already, Cabochard, I don't know if they're going to get an opportunity on Coco.
Now, they invested a lot. Much damage onto Pinoy. That level 2. They're all the same, but trying to lock down that Ezreal early, change anti-stun. Coco is very difficult, and he also has that matchup, so best probably could have happened is getting a summoner down right there, but instead they don't get a whole lot, but still the lane advantage heading over to Gambit, but early pot used by Pinoy as well, so they could come back via some nice trading.
Yeah, Pinoy took so much damage from that Gromp. Gambit gonna look to, I think they have to look to snowball. The later this game goes, the scarier and the scarier CJ Entis become. So with Diamond back on Lee Sin, Edward coming up against Mad Life. This is a matchup that Eddie himself is super excited about. CJ and Gambit, while having different players this time, have got a lot of history. And those two in particular, along with, of course, Shy and Diamond, adding into the mix.
Yeah, very true. I mean, both of these teams this season in their respective regions have had pretty tumultuous seasons so far. And Mad Life, Edward, maybe you could argue both on a bit of an upswing recently. But still a lot of questions about these guys. It'll be interesting to see where both of these teams end up at the end of their respective splits.
Now, one thing I do want to touch on for Gambit in particular, they have been growing in play style, in team fights, in champion compositions as they've gone week to week. But Diamond has had very mixed success from the beginning of the split to the later stages. And there's actually quite a few people that think it's because of Diamond hard carrying the early game that Gambit had that upswing. So we'll need to see whether he can do the same in this match.
You know, one thing we haven't mentioned yet is Betsy started boots on TF, which is kind of interesting.
Well, it's sort of just dodging skill shots as a farm lane allows you to get a lot more of those biscuits as well, so it's not too much of a surprise right here. I am a bit intrigued by the early skirmisher Saber onto Diamond, so we'll see how hard he wants to commit to going into the enemy jungle.
It's a Diamond special.
Yeah.
He was the first EU jungler to really go hard on skirmisher Saber. It was in certain matchups at first, went away from it in recent weeks, but obviously gone back to it here for IEM.
That was a close Aqua Prison there for Mad Life. And Edward, I mean, he's on that Annie. You've got that hard CC, but you're so fragile on that champion. And especially against something like Nami Kog'Maw. If you get hit by one Aqua Prison, you're going to be taking a lot of hits.
On the same token, I think if Gambit find an all-in and avoid the bubble, there is potential for kill threat. But
gold card on the Coco. They're going to come in, and Diamond chasing Coco barely escapes with his life. It's one of those situations where if you saw that ignite in the mid lane, that would have been a kill. But luckily for Coco, it's Ghost Flash for Betsy.
Also, if he had probably had the Chilling Smite instead, that actually would have been a kill right there instead of the Saber.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Take a look at the bubble in the top lane. Exhaust goes out. Summoner heal's been used. Eddie's trying to do the best he can, but first blood secured by Space. Eddie's trying to reply back. Ignite.
Wow.
He's going to get cleansed away, healed away rather.
Yeah, Mad
First
Life
blood for CJ.
Mad Life manages to keep Space alive, and yeah, first blood going to Space on CJ Entis. Man, before this last season, that's not something we said a lot in Korea.
Yeah, and two, getting the early kill onto Kog'Maw is huge because he is the focus point of this composition. It is imperative that he get that advantage so that he can survive and deal as much damage as possible into the late game. So we are getting close to Betsy's level 6, however, and it's all going to be about Twisted Fate right here. Betsy must get successful ganks in the next 10 minutes, or this game is probably going to run out of control for Gambit. CJ is too good at team fighting. They're too good at kiting. This is their mode of play, and so they'll be in the comfort zone with a fantastic composition to close.
Yeah, the CJ method of winning has never relied on getting early leads. It's relied on very good decision-making and team fighting in the mid to late game. They've certainly got a composition they can do that with.
I think both of these team comps actually exemplify their respective teams' play styles.
Yeah, very true.
CJ's all about the kiting, as you've already mentioned, Monty, and Gambit have shown consistently they're all about team fights, and they really, really like all-in. You can see Eddie's roaming down to this bottom lane, but I don't see a lot of kill threat onto a Flash and Wild Growth Shy while he's under his turret.
Looks like they might be thinking about trying it anyway. Yeah, Diamond coming down, Edward running up. They saw him with the ward, though.
And the support from Ambition coming in. This could get risky, but Destiny's available. I think they're going to use that one, Doa. They're going in.
Stun, there's the Destiny coming in. Shy getting blown up pretty quick. True Shot Barrage comes through as well, too. They do get the kill onto Shy. Ambition remains under the turret, and that was a successful gank for Gambit. They made it out. Oh, but actually Betsy's still a little bit low. Gotta dodge. He messes around, did the tri-brush, avoids the spear. Oh, but Coco comes in, helps Ambition pick that one up. Diamond on the run now as Mad Life comes down as well. So in the end, 1 for 1, but it was a kill for Gambit. Was it enough, Monty? You're shaking your head, man.
Well, you have to make that kill and then obviously not die afterwards. Betsy giving one back to Coco. They don't have any tools now to get pressure on the map. And in fact, they all get chunked out. And look at this. Mad Life and Ambition instantly in the enemy jungle getting those deep wards in. So you can't trade right now. Gambit is really, really kind of all in with this strategy. And you have to make those clean tower dives. And I think their choice of going on to Shy, you don't want to play against Shy's teleport. Shy is a fantastic teleport user. He will show up on the other side of the map. So they try and do it over there, but Mad Life was already en route, and they didn't have the wards to make sure Ambition wasn't there.
Yeah, pretty much. It looks like, luckily for Gambit, though, they'll be able to pick up that red buff after the little bit of the invade for CJ. And both teams kind of backing off for now. Teleport advantage not really going for either side at the moment, as Cabochard did use his pretty much right after Shy did to get back to lane.
It's going to be a little scary for Gambit if Mad Life and Ambition can keep reading the Gambit plays, because as that was what was setting up, Ambition was moving into the lane towards Shy, and if Gambit don't get the jump, if Gambit don't gain control, as we said, the late game is in favor of CJ Entis. So for the European squad, we need to see what they decide to do.
Yeah, and if you notice, there was a ward that just expired deep in the mid lane, and that's the key wards that you need against TF. Those are the ones you want right on either side of the mid lane so that you can see him if he walks off and whether or not he's going to use the Destiny and the Gate in order to make those kind of plays. So if we can see CJ continue to put those up.
Oh, here we go. Another gank onto Shy, trying to get back to his turret. There's a Cataclysm with no flash. He's in big trouble here, waiting for his teammates. They can't get there in time. And Gambit really punishing that lack of flash for Shy.
And this is something Gambit will do consistently. Diamond will basically pitch a tent, get some s'mores, and hang out high-fiving Cabo Shard with kill credits all day long. He does it in EU. It tends to lead to a fed Cabo Shard who in Europe is able to carry the game. He's got a CS advantage, and we need to see if this Jarvan pick is going to work out for Gambit.
And he is going to be going for a hell of a lot of damage with this pickup too. They want to blow up the Kog'Maw immediately. You have to be able to engage and instantly kill the Kog'Maw. And by keeping the Lulu down, they're preventing the AP from really getting stacked onto Shy, so you have those big shields, you have those bigger wild growths, and you're more elusive, of course, with the Whimsy as well.
Well, Shy's been a very good Lulu player in Korea this season, but the danger is that, if you get held down, then Lulu kind of becomes sort of support too, on the team, and you don't have that utility, you don't have the damage that you need from that top Lulu.
Well, take a look at that. Betsy's got his ultimate available, has had for a little while, and I think for Gambit, they're going to continue looking to punish waves. With no tower for Shy to fall back to, and the wave pushing towards Gambit, I'm interested to see if Cabo Shard tries to freeze it or tries to hold it, make Shy's life a little more difficult, force some more decisions to be made about where he moves around the map. But for the time being, Gambit holding even a small advantage thanks to having that tower killed in the bottom lane.
And of course, Cabo Shard is going to be so dangerous here if he gets rolling as well, because part of the strategy for Gambit has to be to split push into this game, because if he goes for this full damage Jarvan and he continues to build into a Hydra, he's going to be able to push so effectively, and with the constant threat of Betsy TPing into his lane to finish off kills, who on CJ is going to hold the lane? It's very difficult. They are going to lane swap and let Shy move a little bit forward.
It's interesting to see if CJ can remain even, because of course if Gambit ever do put themselves in a sort of wave pushing multiple lanes, having the teleport from Cabo Shard, having that destiny from Betsy, we'll see if they can split push. Gambit as a team have not successfully split pushed in the EU LCS, but they've not played a Jarvan top nor a Twisted Fate, so we need to see if they can actually demonstrate some growth in their own playstyle today.
You can see a lot better wards right now around the Dragon from CJ Entus. They've taken that threat very seriously as their bottom tower now down, and they are forced to play forward. They're going to go for it.
Yep, that's right. CJ starting that Dragon off. Gambit grouping. The thing is that Pinoy is still way up in the top lane. Shy has his teleport up, so that's enough of a danger that CJ should be able to take this one pretty easily, and they do. Gambit not really in a position to respond to that one, and that's exactly what CJ wanted.
Betsy didn't even use his Destiny for vision, so I wonder if Gambit just had no intention of fighting over that objective at all.
I think that was a pretty easy one to give up. Again, with Pinoy all the way up in the top lane, I don't think they were really planning on contesting that one from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't because of that, but at the same time, Gambit does need to snowball now and start getting those objectives now. They can't be giving up things for free when they do have a lot of TPs available.
They're going to lose this bot turret too, maybe.
Pinoy late to recall on the top lane, maybe a little bit greedy with the wave, and this is going to cost a tower, so CJ going to even up that tower score.
This is really poor defensive play from Gambit coming in, and we'll see if they make somebody pay for it.
Well,
and they have the aggression. Oh man, Shy getting jumped on again. He manages to get out of the Cataclysm. Betsy comes up, lands a gold card. Another kill for TF. And he'll be able to get out fairly cleanly, it looks like.
And again, off of Cabo Shard's laning, but Betsy gets the kill credit. I think that's very important. 2 Destinies used, it has resulted in kills, and it's going to get another tower.
And Lulu, too, a champion that isn't very useful late if you fall this far behind. So Shy really going to have some work to do in the late game. But Coco's been left alone to pretty much free farm right here. And Ezreal is one of his best champions, and he has shown time and time again. He's outplayed Faker on Ezreal in games previously. So it's something that you have to take as a very serious threat here. And I'm curious what he's going to be building this game. If he's going to be going for Trinity Force next, or if he could be going for the Iceborne Gauntlet instead, which in this situation may be a bit better. It will prevent him from getting blown up by Cabo Shard, and they need a lot of ability to kite.
Yeah, and you notice that Edward, he's also gone for an early distortion on his Moby Boots upgrade. Every single thing about Gambit's team comp is just engage, engage, engage. We've not seen Eddie necessarily have an impact yet. In the landing phase, the head-to-head didn't really go his way, but there is a big CS advantage for Pinoy. overspaces Kog'Maw, so that's nothing to be sniffed at either at the 15-minute mark.
Yeah, and also the distortion enchantment on Betsy as well. So this is a very focused Gambit. They came in with an interesting strategy, and it has given them a small lead at this point in time. So whether they can hold it out into the late game, obviously they've done some work on Shy so far, and Shy again having to fall back to a tier 2.
And more importantly, if Gambit can make use of Pinoy's Power Strike. He's just finished his Trinity Force. The rest of the team has been moving at the right time, but it was Pinoy that was late, leaving the top lane that cost Gambit a tower. They can't afford too many of those mistakes.
Yeah, this is great. You're absolutely on point. Look at this. Everybody moving right into the mid lane right now. And they don't have great wave clear. Coco has to ult in order for them to really make short work of these waves. And they could just group and push for the time being.
You know, Ambition's Nidalee. We did talk about him being such a good Nidalee player in the mid lane back in the day, but he hasn't really been around that much. He's gotten a lot more farm than Diamond, but Diamond's been creating the kills. I wonder how a Rengar pick would have maybe worked out in the place of this Nidalee.
Well, he was still there to counter gank with Nidalee in that bottom side, and look at this, more action.
Edward in the bush. Wow, Ambition doesn't check it. They're going to turn. There's the Timbers. Ambition taking out. The gate comes in anyway. They don't even need it. Meanwhile, Diamond in a little bit of trouble. They'll be able to back off, though. Ambition just walked right past that bush, didn't he?
Well, actually, I think Gambit could have gotten a lot more right there had they planned that one better, because Diamond was in underneath the turret, and they invested both Cataclysm and Destiny into killing Ambition. So they may have been able to clean up even more and perhaps gotten to tier 2 had they saved some of these abilities. Instead, they're going to take a lot of damage onto their mid lane turret from Coco. So there was a lot used for just one kill right there, and Gambit is dependent on these cooldowns in order to kind of keep this game moving forward.
That is true, and with the Dragon coming up in about 2 minutes, they're going to need to be very, very careful about how they use this when that gets a little bit closer. Pushing up that mid lane for now.
I honestly think a better use of Gambit's time was pushing the mid lane right there, because here's the thing about Twisted Fate. If you get that outer ring of turrets down first and you have that advantage, you open up so many ways for TF to outplay the enemy team. They had that Trinity Force power spike before Kog'Maw completed his. Now they may get it.
Well, we'll see if they can commit. Diamond and Cabochard all the way towards the top half of the map, so not a full complement of Gambit members in that mid lane.
Shy 0-3-1 this game. He's been held down pretty fast, but he has managed to finish that Morellonomicon. Just in time, too, as that Dragon is coming up in about a minute now. You can see CJ trying to take vision control around that area. Oh, Coco takes an opportunity to get some damage in. Got to be careful, though. Gets hit with that gold card. Kick back in. Can they turn it around? Ambition coming in. Manages to get the kill onto Diamond now. Cabochard on his way out space. Putting a lot of damage in on that Kog'Maw. This mid lane turret may be in a little bit of trouble now. Yeah, still a lot of wave clear, though, but good for CJ.
Yeah, they really turned that around instantly. You can see the speed at which some of these TPs are coming in from CJ. Now they have that 30-second timer. Diamond will be back up in Ambition.
I think he's going to get dunked, and he is dunked.
That is a lot of damage coming out of that top lane Jarvan, but that's what happens.
And something else to point out, that mid lane fight, Pinoy was once again not in the right place at the right time. He was down bottom. As the engage started, Gambit tried to jump into CJ, and then as Pinoy was roaming up, he was late to the party. Gambit already lost a member.
Yeah, still, that was a great play by Cabochard to turn this one around. Found the jungler at a crucial juncture, because now Dragon is live. Ambition still down for the count.
Yeah, that's right. If CJ can hold off long enough for Ambition to come back, then that lack of Cataclysm for Gambit may be a little bit of a disadvantage, but it looks like they're going to start that Dragon right now. And is there anything CJ can do to stop this?
They don't have to fight this at all. Maybe they'll try and land some pokes, see what they can get from the outside, but the main thing is preventing any further objectives from being taken, like the mid lane turret.
I really like the fact Pinoy was trying to zone away CJ, get some rockets down Betsy for backup of those wild cards. So Gambit secure the Dragon. Actually, thanks to Cabochard finding the kill, which was thanks to having a ward in that part of the jungle. But now can they defend? Again, Pinoy went bottom lane. Gambit most likely going to lose this tower. Can't rely on Twisted Fate alone.
And this is the thing. You keep pointing out Pinoy, and I think you're absolutely right. He's been in the wrong place pretty much this whole game. He's in top lane when the dragon is being contested. They don't have adequate vision over that objective early on, and then he immediately retreats down to the bottom. There's no actual defense. So in the end, it's a tower for a tower, and we only see a 500 gold advantage here at 20 minutes. Gambit is really running out of time.
Yeah, I really hate to sound like a broken record, but the longer this game stays even, the happier CJ going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the 0-3 shy, he's still relevant. He's still got AP. With the Lucidity Boots and the Morellonomicon CDR, he's going to have multiple shields, and he's going to have Wild Growth basically for every engage. You know Wild Growth is going to be up before Destiny on the side of Gambit. So I just think for Gambit, they need to try find a way to break into the CJ jungle and get some deep vision down to make more aggressive plays.
And the scary thing about playing this full damage Jarvan is that he dies so fast in the late game. You just literally can't stay alive through burst. If you're lucky, you'll jump onto somebody on Cataclysm and hit them down to 50% HP. But with all of the defensive abilities on this CJ team, you get a Lulu shield down and a Nidalee heal. Not even to mention, you know, the Nami as well. Yeah. And there's not really going to be anything to do, because if we just kind of theory craft out how these team fights should be going for Gambit, is Kabashar going in, maybe Betsy comes in for a flank with Azonias on TF, and Edward following up, you know, with a Tibbers, because you don't want to have to use that flash if you don't have to, if you can already pre-engage with Cataclysm. And Mad Life can nullify so much of that with just a single tidal wave, and the more that they stack up, once we see the Crucible finished on Mad Life, it just becomes harder and harder and harder. And harder for Gambit to win.
And it's so important to note, despite the fact that CJ are behind in CS in the top and the AD carry role, because of the towers and some crucial kills on their side, they're not behind in itemization. So
no, not at all.
Gambit's like window of opportunity gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the longer they're not engaging and jumping on CJ, the happier CJ will be. So,
well, that's the thing. I mean, Gambit has been able to get in there and make early kills, but every time they have, CJ has been able to answer with an objective, answer with a turret, and at the very least get kills of their own, relatively keep up in CS. So how much of a window really was there? Yeah, Ambition hops out of it, flashes out the Cataclysm. There's a flash from Diamond. They kick him away, though. They get the turret in mid, but Ambition escapes, and they used, again, a lot to try to take him down.
Yeah, kind of a preemptive kick from Diamond right there. That wasn't going to be enough to actually get the execute off. So Ambition actually saves his skin. They do take some jungle on the way out, and at least they get a turret for it. Start to open up that gold lead again, but it's 1,000 is very small.
Something we also have to highlight, I was touching on CS for the lanes, but the jungle disparity is massive. Diamond's 66 CS to Ambition's 109. For a guy playing Lee Sin, he really needs to have a bigger impact in this early game, and it simply did not work out. Is this going to steal?
Nope. Not quite. It was close. It was close.
They got me excited, the observers.
That's true. It's not Faker's. It's not Faker's Ezreal. It's Coco's Ezreal. It's good. It's good, but two-shot barrage steals aren't quite as much there. But yeah, you're absolutely right about the two junglers. I mean, same kills, same assists. Here we go. TF coming in. It looks like they may catch Mad Life. Whoa! Never mind. Goodbye, TF. CJ turns this one around space with the kill there. Twisted Fate. He was there, and then he wasn't.
He got Mad Lifed. Insta bubble.
Right. Oh, Tibbers. It does hit right at the end of that dodge for Ambition. He's going to get taken out. I thought they missed, but it caught him at the end. But Pinoy may still be in a little bit of trouble here. CJ, they get the speed from that shrine. Will be enough to catch up. Not quite.
He can still keep on moving. There's the arcade shift.
Yeah, there it is. And the flash will secure it for Coco. Kills evened up now, and CJ finally takes that gold lead by 200. It's there.
If you're Betsy, you cannot engage like that before you have a Zhonya's Hourglass. That it shows to me a little bit that Betsy is very uncomfortable on this champion, because you can't, the CF, the way he plays and the way he engages is so dependent on his itemization that when you try and go all in like that, He just straight up got knocked up and instantly destroyed.
Well, TF is a very snowbally champ, but it's also a very unforgiving champ too. I mean, yeah, you can get some early kills with that TPs, but at some point in the game, if you do something like Pinoy just did, you can give a lot back to the other team too. So it does require a very kind of delicate level of play.
As long as Madlife holds onto his bubble, he's always going to be able to have one additional step up over Betsy. And Mikhail's Crucible has been completed recently, so that gold card threat, or the Tibbers threat, is now somewhat negated. Still going to be some importance and space to be in the right place, because there's so many threats they're going to be trying to jump on him.
Yeah, ambition too. Just in terms of the itemization, he's narrowing in on Azonia's Hourglass right now, which will be absolutely huge for them. That's just another way that he can dodge all of this hard CC that's going to be aimed at him. And the Nidalee, like you're saying, the farm differential is going to be very big, because Nidalee is such an insanely powerful late game jungler on 4 or 5 items. Her poke is just absolutely enormous. The heal that she gets, and she's just going to make the Kog'Maw auto attack even faster than he already is. Really not very confident in Gambit. They've lost that gold lead now by 25 minutes. It's been a defensive game from CJ, but this is typical CJ. Wait it out, play for the late game.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a very, very typical CJ, because the early leads their opponents get early on doesn't seem to matter a whole lot. For years, they've relied on the mid and late game in their team fighting. They will lose that turret up and top.
Small misplay, I think. But then again, CJ don't have the strongest wave clear, so it would have always been difficult to defend that tower anyway.
I think they'll trade it for a dragon, though.
I do think there is a tiny, tiny bit of threat that if Gambit can surprise CJ, maybe from the flank, maybe from a Destiny, because of the all-in damage of the Jarvan and the theoretical damage of the Hourglass TF, there is the possibility to eliminate Space or Coco early, but that is the only way for Gambit to really make a play in that scenario, and it's going to be so difficult to pull off if they get CJ all the way to the inhibitor turrets. There's not a lot of space to jump in behind or Destiny behind for Gambit.
Yeah, Gambit, this also goes back to the fact that they think they were really too passive and focused on kills. When you get those kills, you have to make sure you're instantly in that right place to continue to knock down those towers and just snowball that advantage. So they got that lead, and then it just kind of slowly drifted away without them pressing and playing aggressively enough here.
Well, Gambit, for now, in a little bit of a rut as they try to find a way to sort of bring this one back around to their side. The team fights are going to have to be, and this is where the kind of unforgiving part comes in, is that their team fights, they can win them, but they have to be so perfect on every single thing they do. And if they don't win one soon, we're going to see, more CC counters. We're going to see more cleanses. Banshee's Veils are going to maybe start coming in here too. And all of that hard CC is going to get shrugged off pretty easily by CJ.
Yeah, and even if you do get all that all in, Shy's very close to finishing a death cap most likely.
Yeah.
So all of the shields, the wild growth is going to save whoever you try to jump on top of. Eddie has been sitting on this Moby Boots, distortion boots, for the better part of 15 minutes. And we've simply not seen enough engages. If you're invest that much gold, I feel like you should be looking for those opportunities. Maybe this is that time.
Well, they might try to catch Ambition here. Pinoy and Edward right there. There's a flash Shivers, but it's just going to get cleansed immediately. Madlife there with the Mikhail's Crucible. They'll turn this one around. Edward, there's the tidal wave. True Shot Barrage comes in as well. Can they maybe catch Edward and Pinoy? Betsy there to defend. Maybe a little bit of an overreaction for ZJ, but maybe they'll get something out of this after all. Edward still being chased. That's another kill for Space. 3-0-2 now on that Kog'Maw.
You have to be grouped if you're
the shutdown for Cabochard and a kill for Gambit. They managed to find Space on his own. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, CJ trying to defend that turret. Looks like they will for now. You can see, I mean, the gangster's still there for Gambit.
It's a good kill, but can Gambit get a tower off of it? That's the question. The big damage dealing threat from CJ's away, but Shy's got the strongest wave clear outside of True Shot Barrage for the team. And look, Gambit have run out of minions. They simply can't push, despite getting their 7th kill of the game.
Yeah, these kills are absolutely meaningless at this stage. They need much, much more. They need to be able to be in a situation where they can actually convert that into a Baron, and by making plays into the bottom lane and using that Destiny, there is no follow-up. There's no Dragon on the map right now. There's no way to instantly try and grab a Baron or really do anything off of it whatsoever. So it's nice to line your pockets with some of these kills just a little bit, but it's an objective-based game. You have to take more.
Well, Monty, I'm a believer. Edward's working his way towards that righteous glory. We've seen the power that Kabashad has had. 4-0-2 on that top lane Jarvan. Got some tankiness to back up the damage. 30 minutes into the game, yes, the chips are falling into CJ's favor. One strong team fight could equate
Death timers are getting to be a bit of a concern. CJ may be able to push this one a little bit farther. Certainly don't need to, and yeah, they're not going to. But with two lanes of super minions pushing through, and like we just saw, you know, well, like we're seeing. Now, look at everything they use on Ambition.
Yeah, Ambition actually dodging the gold card right there with the Zonia's Hourglass. And then the knock-up, so they invest so much into taking out Ambition, and yet here comes the cavalry at the end. Coco right there on the side, the zip. Forward Kog'Maw, you start to see how much damage he can do. Cabashard goes in again, gets knocked up, and it's just lights out for Gambit. It is super all in, all in.
It is. I feel that this strategy, if you contrast it to say how Cloud9 tried to play against GE Tigers, in the team that is playing composition, it's more together.
Yeah,
They had so much protection by the end of
both
it
to
as
be
well. There was
offensive and
Bonyas
defensive, and that's why-
everywhere. There were Banshees Veils everywhere. Scimitar. Talisman to run away. All of that stuff failed for you. Just it's impossible.
In the end, I mean, once we got full late game, Gambit couldn't win in terms of 5 versus 5. And if you look at the mid game for them, what Gambit should have done with their comp as well was just do a 1-4 split. Because you had Twisted Fate